Ladies and gentlemen, I am officially running for President of the United States. And
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
And I'm sticking to it. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome, everyone, to another of this weird-ass Joel Guy Jr. guy.
Mm-hmm.
We have more evidence today and another representative from the great Walmart, joined today by my special guest, Dog Momma. What's up, Dog Momma?
Hello, hello. Not much. How are you?
I'm all right. It's Monday. Kids are back in
Yeah,
school.
it's. Oh yeah, how did that go?
It was all right. So, all the anxiety of, I'm not going to make any friends. Oh, I made like 20 friends. Like, no shit. Like, same way every year.
Yeah.
So, let's say hello to everybody and we'll get it playing because we got about 2 hours worth today. So, Bobby, you always come early, but thank you. It's good to have you, buddy. I already did. Dazzer, what's up, bud? Oh, Digger. What's up?
Hey, Digger.
Hey, what's up, Red? It generally does genitals.
Yes.
It generally does. Well, it's normally sticky. That's how you know you hit it. If there's not DNA under your fingers, then you probably didn't hit that like button. So everybody else should too.
Yep.
Hey, Shenny. Potentially. No, Jason, he's alive and well. Well, I don't know if he's well. He's not well, obviously, but he's alive.
Yeah.
What's up, Neo? Scared. Hello. Let me fix it. There we go. Yeah, way early, like 3 hours too early.
Yeah. Early.
We got to work on stamina. But that is everybody. We have some people watching on Rumble, but they never talk to me. So they never talk to me. Oh, there it is. Jacob Castro. What's up? Jacob's over on Rumble.
Hey, Jacob.
Good to see you, friend. And I'm sure you did. But let's get into it. We got more evidence today, and then we followed it up with another Walmart representative with somebody buying more shit. So let's kick it off.
All right.
Welcome back, folks. Ms. Andrews is just pointing out to me an error that I made. My math is not any better than Ross's, and I don't know. I said 537 through 549 for a group of photos. There weren't 12, there were actually 11. So we labeled the last one 549, and it goes through.
Nobody gives a shit about his counting. We'll go ahead.
Yeah.
Lawyer math.
There is. What is that? Joel Guy.
Day 2 genitals.
We're technically on day 2, but we're doing it like 2 hours at a time. It's just on Mondays. This is the defendant, Joel Guy Jr. He cut up his parents. Put his mom in a pot to boil her head.
Her head. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's just a complete free show. I mean, look at this guy. So it's been a fun one, but we're into more crime scene evidence today.
Fun.
Yeah, he wrote a big long list. He thought he had it all together. Even turned on the heat to help decompose the body. Like if
Like a
he had,
weirdo.
yeah, if he had 2 brain cells, like he probably could have got away with it, but he's not very smart. I'm gonna pass on this one, buddy.
Pass.
Yes. Or a pothead.
Page of each of these books, please. Yes. First one was All Quiet on the Western Front. The next one is Hollywood Goes to War: How Politics, Profits, and Propaganda Shaped World War II Movies. Is there a name on the title page of that? There is. Joel Guy. And the third book. This is Profiles in Power, Elizabeth I. And on the inside cover, Joel Guy. The fourth one. Also Profiles in Power, Churchill. And on the inside cover, Joel Guy.
Holy shit, those are the 3 books that she's just got.
You know,
Just
as,
saying.
Part of this backpack, we saw and discussed a notebook. Correct. And at some point, did you submit this notebook for testing with the TBI? I did. And, that why it's in a different package for? Correct. I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification as Exhibit 629 and ask you if you discuss if you recognize the sticker on the exhibit. Yes, so the sticker is the same as the sticker from the maroon backpack with the items marked out to denote that this is indeed the spiral notebook with writing that was removed from the aforementioned maroon backpack. You could publish this.
Yes. Yes.
Separated for testing.
I call this chick the butch lesbian cop, but I don't. Maybe she's not a butch lesbian. Maybe she's just a lesbian. She does have a bun.
I can't tell.
No, there was no crack in it, so it wasn't Hunter's. That was my thought. Nobody can even read that fucking book. Like, what is she doing for real?
Now, I would next like to draw your attention to Exhibit 30 and ask you if you recognize this and if you can discuss this package activity on this. This is item for us, number 114. The location of recovery is the guest bedroom floor next to the bed. Is one navy blue suitcase with staining and multiple items of clothing, and one brown USNC sheath.
Move this into evidence. That's been asked to publish this one. Publish it. And then
Without further objection to 6:30. We did 6:29. You guys did you made it 6:29.
I agree. I thought it would be a little bit more shocking, but
put it over here. Yeah, it'd be easier to put it on.
There's staining.
Let's just go through and see this. Does that appear to be a knife sheath?
Yes.
Is that from the K-bar?
said it had
Multiple
USMC,
items of clothing.
so U.S. Marine Corps stamped on it, but could be
Oh, okay.
Look at the
A fake.
underpants and describe the brand name.
A pair of Banana Republic.
What the fuck?
Was there a note also inside the suitcase?
There was excuse me, a posted
drinks, y'all. Hope you're having a good night. We're having a great night, buddy. Thanks for the super chat.
pocket for Dan Bordeaux's Ace Hardware,
Exactly.
4767 Highway 1, Napoleon, Louisiana, 70390. Written with Ruto, 6.5 pound sewer line cleaner for $19.99.
Is that the name of the empty tubs that we found and introduced into evidence previously?
No, it probably smells awful.
Not as bad as that house did.
That's true.
It's a similar product but a different name. But
Sewer line cleaner.
correct.
Okay. Now, I want to show you what has been marked for identification purposes as Exhibit 631 through 635. And ask you.
Yeah, there's not a
if you
ton of relevance to any of this so far.
Identify
So.
this time.
Yes. So for us, these were items 248, 247, 248, 249, 250, and 251.
Could just be
And
Canadian
these
women's
are,
weightlifting champion.
The location of recovery for all of these
That's where
items
I've
is the
seen her.
3824 Hillside Terrace Lane address. And they are buccal swabs from Michelle Dennison and the juvenile children and a William Napier.
Okay, can you describe just briefly what we'll ask to move those into evidence and
Without objection, let me 6:30, 6:35.
for this submitted to the TBI?
These were not.
Just describe what a buccal swab is.
Okay.
A buccal swab is we open up a sterile set of cotton swabs and swab inside the cheek area, the buccal area, to collect a DNA sample if needed for testing. Or
And were those collected because they were present on Thanksgiving at the Golden View address?
correct.
That's neat. Stay safe.
Cross-examination.
Yes.
Thank you. You are excused, officer. Good day.
Thank you.
We're going to recall Officer Stanley for women's purpose.
Any objection to the recall?
Look at his creepy ass.
Yeah, he's so weird.
This witness, and the reason being such that when we were trying to separate the evidence between the two forensic technicians, this particular exhibit was inadvertently placed in Officer Sandlin's stack of exhibits.
I'm gonna allow the recall. There's not gonna prejudice in any.
Oh yeah, this guy's proud of himself. Like genuinely.
They're certainly weird.
But yeah, disgustingly so, though.
Yeah, he is proud of his crime. Seems a little excessive.
Did they use a spray bottle? Oh, there they go.
I'm not sure.
Yes, sir.
It's like.
Officer Campbell,
Oh.
sorry to ask you to come back in now.
Hmm.
I want to
Weird.
ask you, in the course of your evidence collection, did you have cause to confiscate one pair of universal scissors from the upstairs hallway?
Yes, I believe so. I can verify with the property list. There was a lot of evidence. in
Item
this
number
case.
54.
Yeah, she was here day one.
Yes, sir. I did collect
She's
those.
back for universal scissors or scissoring.
Maybe both.
It's been marked as State's Exhibit 636 for identification. Ask you if you recognize that box.
Yes, sir. It's the box that contains the scissors that were at the top of the stairs.
Coin flip.
Scissors that you confiscated.
Yes, sir.
We do that in evidence and ask if you could publish those.
I think she's cute.
Turn it.
To be exhibit 636, you may open it.
Yes, sir.
It's all evidence today, Scad, and then it gets better. I think this is our last day of evidence, if I remember correctly.
I sure hope so. This is getting boring.
Yep. Well, the last guy sucked so bad, he just made it painful.
Yeah, that's true.
Thank you, officer. You really can't take this.
Thank you, sir.
Next witness, please.
Eddie Watson. Officer Eddie Watson.
Again, seems incredibly excessive.
Excessive.
That was funny, though. It's never going to happen again, though, right? Right?
Never. Right.
Right?
Right.
Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in the case now on trial will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
Should I have a seat, sir?
Sure.
Once you see, you may remove your mask.
Tell us your name, sir,
Officer Edward Wassman,
and by whom are you employed?
Knoxville County Sheriff's Office.
In what capacity?
I'm a digital forensic examiner.
And if you would, describe to the members of the jury what that entails.
We examine digital evidence found on computers, cell phones, SD cards, USB drives, zeros and ones.
Okay. And what type of training have you undergone in order to be qualified for that position?
I have a list. It's about 3 pages.
Have you been to specific academies or trainings that focus on forensic examination of electronic devices?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and kind of describe some of the training you've undergone. In that case.
I've been through NW3C training with identifying and seizing electronic evidence. Also through several ICAC trainings. U.S. Secret Service has sent me to training several times for several different types of digital forensics, both with computers, cell phones, digital evidence, advanced forensics. It's an extensive list.
Okay. Let me just one more. And so I want to talk to you. Well, first of all, how long have you been employed with the Sheriff's Department?
Since 2003, May 5th, 2003.
And how long of your career, in terms of years, have been dedicated to forensic work?
Since 2011.
And I want to talk to you about 2016, November. Did you have cause to respond to 11434 Golden View Lane here in Knox County?
Yes, sir. I was contacted to respond to that address. I want to think it was about 10 o'clock that evening.
Okay. And what was the basis of your response, sir?
What was the date?
The basis of you responding. Why did you go there?
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand.
Why did you go to the address?
Oh, I was told that there was a laptop.
You have
on
to
the
listen
bed
and talk. Do your
that needed to be
fucking
recovered.
job.
And did you in fact recover a laptop from
Take the
bed?
mask off.
Yes, it was. It was a Surface Pro that was found in the center bedroom at the upstairs level.
And did the Surface Pro have any attachments that were attached to it when you arrived on scene?
When I arrived, there was one hard drive attached to the USB port on the left side of it.
First, we'll start with the pre-marked States Exhibit 637, sir. I'm going to ask you to recognize the package.
Yes, sir.
And if you would, tell us what's inside that package.
The Microsoft Surface Pro, serial number 034150161654.
And based on your investigation, is that the same Microsoft Surface Pro that you took from a middle bedroom in the upstairs as you described?
Yes, sir.
And at this point, we move that in as States Exhibit 637.
Without further objection, it'll be 637.
I asked to have that published if I could. Give it nice. Give it nice.
Sir.
Pull that up and start the numbers.
Sir.
You mentioned that at the time you took possession of that laptop, it had a device attached to it. What was that, sir?
This is a passport, black passport hard drive, USB.
Was it black, sir?
I believe so. Memory serves.
You want to refer to your notes?
I would have to at that point. It was either.
I'm trying to think of a good one, but I can't.
I don't have those with my notes right here. I'm sorry. It was either black or silver.
I'm going to hand you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 638, sir, and ask you if you recognize that.
Yes, sir.
And what is in that package, sir?
The Western Digital, My Passport Ultra, white, external hard drive. Serial number, Whiskey, X-ray, Zebra, 1 David, 1-6, Lincoln, Charlie, Zebra, 6.
Person gets skinny.
Union.
Is that the fresh-
He has those nice skinny lips, and he's not.
Yes, yes, sir.
So
We're going to move that in as State's Exhibit 638.
Further objection to 638. Again, folks, at this point, 637 and 638 are the physical objects, the Surface Pro itself and the hard drive. At this point, you have not heard any electronic data from those. So when you're looking at 637, 638, you can only look at the object itself. You can't plug them up and see what you're talking about.
If you put that back in the bank. With regard to exhibits 637 and 638, tell us what safeguards you put in place in order to transport that laptop.
When I arrived on the scene, the concern was who the laptop belonged to. It was running. It was unlocked, sitting in the middle of the bed. From looking at the laptop, I immediately noticed an application running at the bottom right-hand corner near the time in a place we call the sys tray. It's S-Y-S-T-R-E-Y, sys tray. And it was a Samsung
there it is, Sis Trey.
application.
That's his name.
I hovered the mouse over that application, and it showed me
No,
a
that's perfect.
Gmail address that was connected to that application. And the Gmail address was joelguy00@gmail.com. Sir?
Do you think the
Take possession of the laptop at that point?
Yes, sir.
And
Do you think
before
the gum's
go
going to
other
fly
things,
out of his
did-
mouth?
Did you want to keep the laptop on?
We noticed that the laptop was running BitLocker on
It's
the hard
highly
drive.
possible.
And if you would explain to the jury what BitLocker is, what does that mean to you as a forensic technician who deals with electronics?
BitLocker is a Microsoft security tool that keeps anyone that doesn't know a password to the BitLocker encryption from looking at the hard drive. So effectively, if I don't know the password to that BitLocker encryption, I cannot look at the hard drive. And this, at the point we saw it on the bed, it was unlocked, which means I could look at the hard drive at that time. But if the computer restarted or if the hard drive was disconnected, I would no longer be able to see the data on the drive without the password. So it was very critical to us to keep the hard drive and computer running and stable, get it back to the lab to await the extraction.
And when you say to await extraction, explain what you mean by that, sir.
And we started the extraction on the laptop and the hard drive, and during that process, the computer restarted. It blue screened. If you've heard of blue screen of death, it got an error which caused the computer to restart. When it rebooted, the computer was challenging for a password or facial recognition, and the hard drive was bit locked. There was no way to look at the data on that drive
So
without the BitLocker password.
okay, so based on the computer being bit locked without a password, were you ever able to conduct a forensic examination on the Microsoft Surface Pro?
We have not been able to bypass that security as of yet.
And did you also collect a desktop computer from 11434 Golden View Lane?
Yes, sir. That was a few days later. When we returned back.
Well,
to
it's
collect,
trial
additional items,
time, so
and
it
the
doesn't
desktop
really
was
matter if
one
you
of
could
the
do it
sources that
later.
was collected.
And where was the desktop computer located within the residence?
It was downstairs in the den, adjacent to the or the side of the family room area.
And
Was
was it,
walk into the family room. It was on the right side in the corner.
okay, was it operational and was it on? Or
It was powered off at the time.
Folks, was what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 639, sir, for ID, and ask if you recognize this.
Yes, sir.
Look at those dainty hands.
This is a Dell Inspiron desktop computer. Serial number 7. Q is in Queen. H is in Henry. 0. B is in Bravo. K is in
No comment, and I take offense to that.
And we move that in as State's Exhibit 639.
Additional objection will be 639. Again, it's just a physical item that's in evidence, not any electronic information.
With regard to Exhibit 639, the Dell desktop computer, were you able to bring that back to the property unit, sir?
Yes, sir.
And were you able to ultimately conduct a forensic examination on that computer?
Yes, I was. We performed a bit-by-bit extraction on the hard drive.
And did you find anything on the computer close in time to November the 28th, 2016 that was relevant to your investigation?
Yes, sir. We found on 11/26 of 2016 at 12:15 p.m. on Eastern Standard Time, 7 USB devices were connected at the same time to this computer, which seemed to be a significant event. There was a,
And if you would, let me kind of follow up on that. How do you go about determining how many USB drives are connected to a computer at any given time or have been?
there are registry entries that Windows keeps up with. Every time you plug a USB drive into a computer, it makes an entry about that USB drive with information about the USB component, drive, camera, phone, whatever it might be that plugs into it. And all of these had this entry put into the registry at the same time.
Okay.
There was a Google search discovered for sodium percarbonate on 11/27/2016 at 8:05 a.m. Eastern Time. Following up on that, my investigation, I discovered sodium percarbonate is the active ingredient in OxyClean.
And again, that was November the 27th.
11/27/2016, yes, sir, at 8:05 a.m. Eastern Standard.
Okay. And any other relevant information that you uncovered on the desktop computer?
Been discovered on 11/27/2016 at 10:49 a.m. Eastern Time. Capital One artifacts were discovered in the history, the browser history, deposit transfer confirmation, deposit transfer validation, account summary, services login, and online banking, Capital One 360.
Okay.
All these artifacts were found again at 11/27/2016 at 10:49 a.m.
Trust the
November the 27th.
science.
Sir.
That face shield's working.
Trust the science.
Dainty hands, dainty hands. Bobby's got them dainty hands.
I don't know what they're doing.
This is a Dell Inspiron. Oh no, the tag is wrong. I'm afraid this is a Fujitsu
I don't know.
hard drive. I believe it was in a laptop. If I remember correct, memory serves. Okay. Yes, there was, see here, it was in a laptop computer. If memory serves, it was found in the laptop computer in the den inside of the laptop bag.
We can then Stacy did 640.
2640, again, it's just the physical items, not actually the electronic.
What numbers are what?
95 is item 95. Introduced through Tom Finch, so it should be several.
sir,
Bit faster?
To show you what's been previously entered in evidence is State's Exhibit 474. And that's if you recognize that.
Yes, it is.
It was a Samsung Galaxy S5 cell phone.
Was that one of the phones that you examined in this case?
Can I open this?
Yes, sir.
See, I was thinking, what if it was his dentures? Like Isabel said.
Wait, what?
Isabel said, is that gum or dentures? And I was like, I wonder if it is dentures.
Yes, sir. I recognize this.
And did you give that a title in your investigation?
I hope
Yes, sir.
not.
We,
He's chewing on
labeled
those
it
records like
evidence
crazy.
number PD.
But it'd be funny, though.
Portable device 2.
Yeah.
That's going to hand you what's been previously entered into evidence as State's Exhibit 355. This is your question of answer.
Yes, sir.
And what is that?
This is a Samsung cell phone with pink case.
Is that one of the devices that you conducted a forensic examination?
Yes, it is.
You put that there.
Labeled this PD01.
Tell us what you did in order to conduct an examination on PD01 and PD02 being a black Samsung and a Samsung enclosed in a pink case.
We performed an analysis on both devices.
And what do you do when you perform an analysis on a cell phone in particular?
We have several different methods that we use. In this method, we utilized a physical examination. Physical examination is, again, a bit-by-bit copy, an exact copy of everything that's found on the phone. And we were fortunate to be able to do that because that then provides us with all the information on the phone, including any deleted information, any tower information, or
Yeah,
anything
technically,
else
it's
that
just
might not
technology,
otherwise
so
be,
they
found
would
on a
have
cell
already
phone.
gotten any
Okay, so starting
DNA
with
or
PD01, did you find anything relevant close in
fingerprints
time
on
to
'em.
November the 28th, 2016?
if that. It's not really like
Found
physical
on
evidence.
PD01,
And for the record, would that be the phone in the pink case?
one with the pink case. There was a few text messages between the owner of the device and Joe Michael asking, text me when you leave tomorrow. Be careful, love you. And then the response will do. And then on and that was on 11/22/2016 at 7:56 p.m. Then on 11/23/2016 at 11:45, there's a text message from Joe Michael to this device that said just left. And the response to that at 12:25:03 p.m. was, K, be careful. I found at 10:07 a.m. on, I'm sorry, I got my date wrong there. On 11/25/2016 at 4:03, the last visited website on that device. After that time, no more websites were looked at in the web history.
And again, this is the phone with the pink case.
This is the one with the pink case, correct?
Okay. And the last website visit was on the 25th?
Yes, 11:25
And
at
with-
4:03 p.m. Also on 11:25 at 5:12 p.m. Eastern Standard was the last tower update where the phone had spoke to the tower. And that was every time a tower changes, the phone had a log of those changes. That last tower update was on 11/25/2016 at 5:12.
Okay. Now, with regard to PD2 being the Samsung Galaxy in the black case, did you find anything relevant on or near November 28th, 2016?
Yes, on November 27th, 2016 at 9:38 a.m., there was an inbound text message from the number 872265. And it was read, and the message was U.S. Bank alerts, card not present alert. Your card, 5773, was charged $2,051.03 at Bursar Operations. To opt out, text stop. There was one following behind that at 9:40. I'm sorry, I'm reading these backwards. That was at 9:41 and 29 seconds. There was one just before that at 9:40 and 2 seconds. U.S. Bank alerts, card not present alert. Your card 5773 was charged $1,589.78 at Bursar Operations to opt out text stop. And then just before that one on 11/27/2016 at 9:38 and 26 seconds a.m., there was a red text message that said, U.S. Bank alerts, card not present alert. Your card 5773 was charged $1,025 at Bursar Operations to opt out text stop. That was the last of those are the three text messages that I noted.
And those text messages came in on what date, sir?
Bursar Operations, when I looked into that, I found that that belongs to LSU. So that a Capital One alerting individual that LSU, the money was transferred to LSU through that credit card number.
Okay. And what date were those text messages?
I'm sorry, what?
What date were those text messages? What date did they come in?
The date those text messages was November 27th, 2016.
God.
I'll pass it with Sean. No question.
Oh, thank God, because we know the
Thank you,
defense won't ask shit.
Oh.
I agree. What's up, amazing?
And Mr. Stevens, Mr. Halstead, it's the SunTrust. Did you need that?
Can you imagine the smell of Lysol in there?
So, Your Honor, please, this is a business records affidavit.
Repeatedly,
from Deborah
every
Rogers,
time
who's the
somebody sits
custodian of
down.
records for Sun
Yeah, that
Trust
was
Yeah.
getting annoying.
And
And
this
it's
affidavit
probably
concerns
like
the account of,
the not so
the
good
account
smelling
holder named
stuff.
Lisa Guy. It
Yeah, it's
references the
cheap
account
shit.
number.
You know that.
Yeah.
And there are a one-page account statement for a transaction made on November the 28th, 2016, check card purchase, transfer date 11/27/2016, Submeter 1 LLC 022557657577, Louisiana, in the amount of a withdrawal or debit for $3,090, again on November the 27th, 2016. And we would submit this as our next.
Nothing beyond what we've already done with the evidence.
Oh, this is all the money he was going to make up from dying.
Yeah.
Exhibit 641,
Yeah.
Which has an affidavit from the custodian of the records indicating what they purported to be. That is evidence you may consider as well.
I was gonna say, what's up with his mask?
Right, next item.
They work totally.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony about to give in the case now on trial will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, nothing but God? I swear. As you receive it,
Tell us your name, sir,
Jeremy McCord,
and by whom you employed.
the Knox County Sheriff's Office.
And were you still employed in November of 2016?
Yes, sir.
And if you would, how long have you been in the sheriff's department?
Since September 10th, 2007.
Okay. And how did you become involved in this case, sir?
I'm the lead investigator on the case, sir.
Okay. And where were you assigned November the 28th of 2016?
I was assigned to the Major Crimes Unit as a detective.
And I want to talk to you about what initially brought you to 11434 Golden View Lane here in Knox County.
I had received
Like
a
what?
phone call from our teleserve unit indicating that an employer was concerned for Lisa Guy, who had not shown up for work that morning. She had some type of lunch or some type of event with coworkers planned. Her not showing up to work, not answering phone calls or anything else was very uncharacteristic
Light
of her.
rain, that's funny.
I had also learned that our officers had gone out and did a welfare check at the residence sometime before then. And having that information plus information that the caller is still calling in and is persistent that something's wrong, I decided to contact the officer that responded and went back to the residence, or went out to the residence initially to see what was going on.
And the initial officer that responded, was that Officer Ballard?
Yes,
Okay. And based on the call, did you go with him back to the residence?
I did.
And if you would, tell the members of the jury what you encountered when you were outside of the residence.
Upon my arrival, there were vehicles in the driveway.
Please,
There
sir, make
was,
this interesting.
for sale sign in the front yard. The back fence was closed. The front door was locked. You could observe, you could see that there were groceries inside the residence. With the vehicles in the driveway and the information that we had, it was obvious that the owners of the vehicles could possibly be inside the residence and need assistance. I actually jumped the fence, went to the back with another officer, got down and got up on the door, observed that there was
Yeah, right.
a doorknob missing on the back door, and the glass was warm from the inside of the house. Like you could just tell that the door was warm, and there was some kind of strange odor that I observed. I don't know if I verbalized it. I know that it was more or less just a feeling sensation, feeling very odd. There was something ominous about it. Went back around the fence. At some point, the realtor was contacted, and I had observed that there was no realtor box on the front of the door. So I called the number listed for the realtor and spoke with someone at the office, and then I believe the realtor themselves. And it was suggested to me, A, that there should have been a lockbox on the front door, and B, that perhaps there was another avenue of entry, because without us having to break windows or anything like that, to get inside the residence. And a garage door opener was located. The garage door was open. As soon as the garage door was open, you could feel heat coming from the garage door.
Let me ask you, sir, investigator. So at this point, what are your concerns? You arrive on the crime scene and go through your concerns as a police officer conducting a welfare check. What you're experiencing, what you're processing.
At the time, we didn't know that there was a crime scene. At the time, what we're doing is conducting a welfare check, which is something that law enforcement does on a daily basis. Even in this community, people call daily to check on people that they've not heard from. It's either an employer that's not heard from an employee, or a family member that's not been able to get a hold of a loved one. They're not picking up the phone. They may be unable to go themselves, or they don't want to go themselves because of the unknown. So they'll call law enforcement, and we'll go and conduct a welfare check. So at this point in time, all I'm doing is trying to see if somebody inside needs help.
Okay. Did you run the license plate numbers on the vehicles that were in the driveway?
I don't believe I ran them through leads.
Okay. In the course of investigation, did you learn that they belonged to Lisa Guy and Joel Guy Sr.?
I did.
Okay. And did you take that into account when you were on scene?
On scene, having knowledge from having knowledge that the two vehicles in the driveway were their cars, and they weren't known to have any other cars. And I'm not specifically sure how I got that, other than perhaps the neighbor had said their cars were in the driveway. I'm not 100% certain. But we had information. It was obvious that there were vehicles in the driveway. Nobody was answering the door, and it was an odd situation.
Okay, so the fact that there's vehicles in the driveway and no one's answering the door, that's an odd situation.
Yes.
What else makes the situation odd to you as an investigator?
Well, as an investigator, what's odd is with nobody coming to the door, and the fact that, Lisa Guy, who had plans, who had an employment history where she showed up to work daily, and if she wasn't at work, she would have called. The questions were asked of the complainant if there were any history that she was worried about as far as her being in trouble or anything like that, and she said no. I mean, at this point, it could be anything. We could walk into a house and it's a carbon monoxide exposure, and people are deceased inside. We just don't know what we're walking into. But with the knowledge that she's not answering her phone, she's not responding to texts, and also knowing that the husband had been called as well by the employer, it's alarming.
Okay, so we have the cars that were alarming to you, the fact that Miss Lisa Guy is not there at the residence.
Correct.
She's supposed to be at work. What other factors did you consider?
Well, the front doorknob was obviously not matching the deadbolt. Most doors have doorknobs and deadbolts that match. And with the lack of the realtor box, and the realtor telling me, hey, there should be a realtor box on there, that's just another factor that we consider in a circumstance where something has gone wrong, and we need to go in and check it out, make sure nobody needs help.
Okay, so in addition to the front doorknob, when you go around the rear of the residence, is there other factors that alarm you as an investigator?
Well, the back door was missing the doorknob as well. The back doorknob, it appeared that it was the same color as what was on the front door, if that makes any sense. It's like you took the back doorknob off, you put the front doorknob, put it on the front door, and somehow removed that lockbox.
Okay, so in addition to the back door missing the knob, was there anything else about the rear of the residence that alarmed you?
Yeah, overall, there was something emanating from that door.
Yes, the house
to the point where I felt
it
heat,
was
and I also
being
smelled
in
an
the
odor
process of being
that
sold.
was chemical in nature, and I'm not certain exactly what specifically that odor was. It was just odd to me.
Okay, what about the fact that the doorknob is not present?
That, as I said earlier, that doorknob is removed, and it is apparent that doorknob is on the front door.
Okay. And when you went back with Investigator Ballard, did you physically see the groceries inside the front door?
You could actually see the groceries from the back door looking through the doorknob as well. So you could tell that there's groceries in what appears to be the front foyer of the residence.
Okay. And taking all these factors into account, Did you ultimately make a decision to enter the residence?
I did, to conduct a welfare check.
And do you recall how you or the people, investigators or officers you were with, made entry into the garage?
The garage door was open, and we stacked up and I was making announcements that we were law enforcement.
So let me back up for just a moment. When you say the garage door was open, did law enforcement open that garage door?
Yes, law enforcement opened the garage door, and then we went in and went to the door that led from the garage into the residence.
Okay, and how did law enforcement open that door?
I believe I pushed that door open. I believe it was just kind of pushed too. I don't even know if I touched the doorknob. I just pushed on the door, made entry. And upon walking inside, immediately being hit with odor and heat, very extreme heat.
And backing up even further, how was the garage door open? That's what I'm getting at, sir.
Oh, my apologies. The garage door, there was a garage door opener located in one of the vehicles. And I believe in reviewing everything that one of the other officers may have opened that garage door.
Okay.
Push the button.
Okay. So once in the garage, the entry to the garage door to the residence is opened by you?
Yes.
Was it locked?
No.
Okay. And once you're in the residence, describe kind of what you're perceiving, what's going on to you as an investigator.
Overall, when you enter, you don't want to stand in a doorway for an extended period of time because you have people behind you. So you want to try and get in and see what the layout is to determine where to go next when you're clearing the residence. The entire time we're making announcements, we're hit with heat. We're hit, and again with this strange odor.
No, it's not AP. Trust the science.
A large pot that you can tell that the stove is on, the stovetop and the oven are on because of all the heat coming from that area, and it's very odd. And as we're going through the house, we're making announcements. We're moving forward and progressing through the downstairs of the residence, and we observe several things to include the lock box for the front door of the residence.
Let me kind of slow you down a little bit. You talk fast just naturally, but
Roger that.
We're going to go through room by room. Let's
Okay.
kind of go through what you're perceiving as an officer. But
Roger
you can back up
that.
even further. When you open the garage, do you feel that heat that you're describing?
Yes.
Is that present in the garage?
It is.
Okay, so starting in the room that is directly through the garage door, it's
Mhm.
like a living room. Tell us what you observe in that room, and then we'll move on to different rooms.
Yes,
Well,
I
initially,
envision.
when you go through the garage door, it's like an eat-in kitchen. And for right there, you've got on the table, you've got what appears to be a purse, a couple wallets that are out, and there's items on the floor that are there's bottles and other items on the floor.
Now, are those items on the floor? Do those alert you in any way?
It's odd. I mean, there's just there's stuff in the middle of the floor at an entryway. So you're wondering if somebody's had a medical event after they carried in groceries. We just don't know. So we see these items. We're feeling the heat. The stove's on. The oven's on. We're going through, and as I go into what would be the living room,
Let's stick in that room first.
Okay.
When you described 2 wallets present on the table, did that alarm you in any way?
Yeah. So I mean, most people when they leave their residence, in my experience, have their wallet on them, and to have 2 wallets, one male, one female, and for us to have the knowledge that Lisa and Joel Guy resided there by themselves, to see 2 wallets there and nobody answering the door, it's alarming.
Okay, now sticking to the table in the same room where the wallets are, is there anything else present on that table?
There are other items on that table. Specifically, I know that I believe there was a hammer on the table and a cell phone, I believe, on the table.
Was there a doorknob on the table?
Excuse me?
Was there a doorknob on the table?
I don't know if it was on that table or on the dining room table in the formal dining.
Okay.
Because there were doorknob pieces on the formal dining room table.
Okay. So we've gone through the table. We're into the residence. To the right is the kitchen. Let's move on to the kitchen, sir. And just walking through the kitchen slowly, tell us what you observe in the kitchen.
To the right
Yeah,
was a
please
stove
tell us.
that appeared to be on with the pot on it. And at the time, we didn't know what was in it. And continuing through,
Did you see any pill bottles in the kitchen?
there would have been, yes. The issue is when going through the house, we swept it twice. So on the first entry, I would have gone totally straight in, and somebody else would have gone through the kitchen, and we would have met in the middle.
Okay.
So my testimony of seeing what would be in there would have been upon the second entry.
Scott, they already
and further
showed the body
investigation.
cam footage.
So-
I wouldn't have seen that first.
So he
thing.
went straight, and someone else covered the kitchen on the initial entry.
Correct, and then we would go down just to make sure that if something happens, that we're not going to hurt ourselves or anything, and we're clearing it safely, and then we make it through. All I really observed was there was what appeared to be feces in the floor of the living room.
Okay.
I believe that's a living room den type area where that fireplace was. There's a fireplace in the wall. There was feces there. I observed that. I remember that, and now went straight through.
Do you recall whether or not any heaters upon your initial entry were
Was there
on?
feces on the
I don't
bed?
know if the heater downstairs was on or not. I know it was hot downstairs. I don't know what position it was in when I'm going through and clearing it.
So after the dining room there, or excuse me, after the kind of living room, kind of the dining room next. Is that fair to say?
Yes, we would. I would have gone through the foyer. That area had
Yes,
the
ketchup corner is in full
the
view,
groceries in
Bobby.
it and whatnot that was in the floor. There were 3 cases of beer, perishables. There was breakfast meat, stuff like that in bags that you could just see sitting there. And then immediately to the right is a formal dining room that had a large amount of long guns laying there. I think there was a red velvet cake at the end of the table. It's just stuck out.
So
And
taking into account everything you've witnessed thus far, circumstances present outside as well as what you observed inside.
That it was
How are you
a
feeling? at this
dog's
point?
poop. I'm
it's
just
terrifying
trying to make
because you don't
light
know
of this.
somebody needs some help. I mean, it's just an odd situation. There's nothing downstairs that I'm observing that makes sense to me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we go through houses and we clear houses regularly, and most of the time, if you encounter something, you kind of know right when you get in. This was a very different situation because once we get upstairs, it's like the world does a 180. Everything gets turned upside down.
Is your service weapon drawn upon initially entering the residence? Okay. Is that normal protocol?
It is. It's through our training.
Okay, so now we are at the foyer.
You ate
mentioned
the red
seeing,
velvet cake.
groceries that were
Yes.
left there with perishables in there, or in the bags.
Yes.
The fact that there's groceries with perishables in the bags, did that alarm you as a law enforcement officer?
It did. It's obvious that somebody started a task and they've not finished it. Most people put their groceries up when they get home, especially the items that need to go into a refrigerator or freezer.
Okay. So at that point, do you decide to go up the stairwell, sir?
I do, and I take point and begin going up the stairs.
And when you say you take point, describe what you mean by that.
I get in front of everybody and start clearing the stairwell to try and get an eyeball of what's above us to see if there's anybody that's obviously in duress and to make sure there's nobody in there that's going to hurt us. During this time, there's a dog that's barking, and the dog will bark and bark and bark, and then the dog stops barking. That was odd to me. Most dogs, when they bark and you're in their territory, they continue barking. This dog was stopping. He was kind of whimpering at times.
Okay. And are you simultaneously identifying yourself or attempting to identify
I am.
yourself? Okay. So you made it to the stairs, sir. Does anything change once you reach about halfway up the stairwell?
Once you come up the first steps, you're able to go up like 3 steps and you can see down the hallway. You get a purview of that. And immediately when I turned, the stairwell is
Let's
when
stay on the stairwell. Excuse me for cutting you off. It's important that we get in every detail. But on the stairwell, is there anything present on the walls or railings that alarmed you as a law enforcement?
there is. There's reddish brown staining that's consistent with blood staining that I've observed at other crime scenes. Would appear to be blood on the wall, and then I was able to see down the hall and see what was also what was directly in front of me. And I think I asked if people had gloves on to put gloves on just for exposure risk.
And once you see the reddish brown staining that you believe to be blood present in the stairwell, does how you're interpreting the scene change at all?
The overall goal, and I don't know if I understand the frame of the question. The overall goal is we have to go through that house and do our job and make sure if there's somebody in there that we can help, that we render aid. Okay. So as we're going through the stairwell,
I think the dog
these other
poop is
events are
evidence.
occurring, and as I'm observing other things, the end result is not going to change. Once the decision was made to go in, we're going to go in and make sure that people are okay if they're inside.
Okay. Now let's go to the gate. You make it through the gate, and do you observe anything immediately after you make it through the gate at the top of the stairs?
I observed what appeared to be clothing and sharp instruments. And
Weird.
some kind
Did
of
it sound
bucket.
like it was
I don't know
talking
what
over
was
itself,
above
or
it.
was that
There
just
was
me?
something else present with the clothing and what appeared to be
Did it
reddish
sound
brown
like it was
staining
talking
on the
over
floor,
itself, or is that
the
just me?
wall. It's going all over the place.
I didn't hear it.
And you can see straight down the
Okay.
hall, and I saw hands not connected to a body. And at that point, we held the other officers held the hallway, and we started doing standard building clearing. And at that point in time, it's a training thing, and we communicate a little bit, but not much. But I made the decision to turn and go into what eventually I learned is the master bedroom.
Okay. So before you go into the bedroom, you observe what you believe to be human hands present down the hallway, which
Yes.
is that the exercise room?
Yes,
Okay. And upon viewing those hands, does that change how you're feeling at all?
it's gut wrenching, and it's something that I've never experienced before.
At this
in a
point,
crime
do
scene.
you suspect that something's wrong?
Absolutely.
You mentioned that you broke off right and you went into the master bedroom.
It was me.
Tell us about what the details of what you observed inside that master bedroom before you get to the master bathroom.
When you go in, there was like plastic drop cloth type material or something, a roll of plastic on the bed. And I remember the bed was made. And then there were items scattered on the floor in a general area to my left. as I went in. As I went in, the door opened. You go straight into the bedroom, and to the left, in the center of the wall, is the master bed. And then there's a lot of space in the room. It's a large room, and there were items on the floor scattered that would later be collected and documented. And I went straight to what would have been my next threat area at this point, which would have been the bathroom.
And before we get into the bathroom, the materials that are on the floor that we've seen in the pictures thus far, a wide array of tools and lights and such. Did that alarm you at all as a law enforcement officer? How did you perceive seeing those items on the floor?
I had absolutely no idea what I was walking into.
Okay. So you made it through the master bedroom. Let's talk about what you experienced in the master bathroom.
I went in the master bathroom,
It's
and
odd.
the only thing I saw
What
were
did explaining
two
it?
tubs with what appeared to be
Yeah.
body parts liquefying.
Okay. Did you have occasion to notice if there was a heater on in that bathroom, sir?
It was hot in there. It was hotter in there than most places. I didn't look at the heater at that time, Jeremy.
Okay. Did you have occasion to notice any sort of knives present in that bathroom?
There were knives, yes.
Okay. And you had a chance to watch the video. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
At some point, you can be heard saying, "Oh my God!" And what is that in response to?
It's in response to what I saw.
Okay. And after you see that, how has this changed your welfare check at this point?
We obviously there's something that's occurred here, and the number one thing I want to do at this point is A, make sure that we're preserving the crime scene. B, ensuring that there's nobody else inside the residence that needs help. So in doing so, we had to clear the rest of the residence, and then I notified my supervision and started crime scene in the regional forensic center, and all that.
Okay. So once you instruct folks to back out at some point after you make your observation in the master bathroom?
I didn't. It was shocking. Yes, I did.
And this is after you observed what you believe to be human hands in the exercise room?
Yes.
Okay. And did you retreat the same way that you entered into the residence?
Yes. The number one goal is when you determine that when it's obvious a crime is committed, you try and have one way in and one way out so that you can maintain as much integrity of a crime scene as you can. It's good to designate points of entry and points of exit. And it was most advantageous for us to go out the way we came.
Okay. And did you clear every room in the residence at that point, or
No.
did you leave some uncleared?
We left some unclear. Where the dog was located actually turned out to be the laundry room. And out of an abundance of caution, I made sure that we had enough personnel to safely clear the room. Again, we didn't know what it was. We didn't know where the room was or what was in that room. We didn't know if somebody was in there. And upon getting enough people there, we made sure that there wasn't anybody, and there wasn't. We got the dog out, and somebody helped him. I'm not sure which officer.
So the first entry, you're with yourself and 3 other people are accompanying you. Is that
Yes.
correct? And you do not clear at least one room.
Correct. We hold an area. The theory is you can back out, clear, and hold what you've got until you get enough people there to safely go back up and determine what's going on. It's easier for us and safer for all parties involved, especially on the what ifs. If there's somebody in there, our number one goal is everybody's safety in this situation.
Okay. And going back to the upstairs, I'm sorry to jump around a little bit, but is the heat, are you experiencing more heat upstairs than you are downstairs?
It's hotter upstairs than downstairs.
And how about the odors or presence of chemicals?
It's I'll never get those smells out of my head or my dreams.
Okay. So you retreat the
Dreams?
same way that you've come in, sir.
Yes.
And at some point, do you
I was
get
just say
enough
nightmares.
number of law
not
enforcement personnel
dreams.
to re-enter that residence?
I do.
Okay. And who was with you at that point?
I believe I had people from the unit for major crimes. There was some additional patrol supervisors there that showed up, and some patrolmen, and a group of us went up, stacked up, and made announcements and cleared the room.
And when you say stacked up, what are you referring to?
I'm sorry. We get in a line basically in that situation, take positions to where if something happens, we have some form of
It's
either
awesome.
cover or concealment, and we opened the door and determined that there was just the dog in there.
Okay. So at this point, everyone's aware of what is present in the residence based on your initial entry.
Yes.
Okay. Do you ultimately go back upstairs and secure the room where the dog was barking?
Yes.
Okay. And what do you find in that room, sir?
The dog, the room with the dog.
Yes, sir.
It was the washer and dryer, I believe. I'm not sure what else was in that room.
And if you could describe the dog's behavior when you took possession of him.
He was tired. I've not been around that dog. I don't know the dog normally, but he was thirsty. There was no water in there or anything. I mean, and he would be up and barking, and then he would just stop. It was just.
Okay. At some
Poor
point,
pup.
you go back to the downstairs, particularly the kitchen area. And at some point, do you have cause to inspect the contents of the pot?
Yes, the contents of the pot. It was determined that there was a head, a severed head in the pot.
And did you observe the contents of that pot?
I
on the
did.
28th? Okay. So after the residence has been sufficiently cleared, crime scene has been set up, are you working to look at any relevant pieces of evidence that you may find within the residence?
Yes, the next step in this process is obviously begin an investigation into what occurred. It's to identify pieces of evidence that we need to take so that we can, as a group, it's a group effort. It's not just me working the case. There's other detectives, there's other units that all assist, from forensics to cyber. And what we do is we identify evidence, we note its location, it's bagged and tagged appropriately through their protocols, and then we go through each room to ensure that, you know, whatever is available as far as information to us, we can see that, observe that, and learn from it.
Before the crime scene goes to picking up physical pieces of evidence and documenting the crime scene through the use of video and photographs, were you present when the actual the remains of Lisa Guy and Joel Guy Sr. were removed from the residence?
The entire process took a while. There were other, we had to pull out due to the dangers of the toxicity or something like that. They didn't want anybody else in the house except the people that could be in the hazmat suits.
Okay.
So I was present during that time and also attempting to coordinate information in terms of identifying, finding out next of kin and trying to get the story of what happened.
And excuse the question, but are you aware of how the body parts were physically removed from the tubs and what was done with the liquid that was in the tubs?
To my knowledge, the liquids were placed in some type of container that is approved by the EPA in dealing with biochemical components. As far as what happens when they put that on the truck and how that was handled, that I don't know.
Again.
And as far as the body removal, I know that the Regional Forensic Center would have, they were in there to get the pieces out.
Should I be disgusted? Because I'm over here eating potato salad.
And I want to talk to you now about kind of how you went about identifying a
I
possible
wouldn't
suspect
tell
in this
too
case
many
and
people
what
that,
measures you took,
but
and what led
yeah,
you
you're
ultimately
fine.
to,
You're
Joel
normal.
Guy, President for today. If you would talk to us first about any sort of relevant evidence at the crime
If
scene.
we were talking to like 20 people
I
right
was able to
now,
go
then
back into the house.
I
There's
wouldn't,
a
but
upstairs
it's just me and
bathroom,
you, so we're fine.
that had a Walmart bag
Oh,
in it.
yeah,
The
totally.
Walmart bag had a receipt
Yeah.
in it. And I literally got the information off of the receipt and went to Walmart to try and figure out who had made a purchase, because Walmart is known.
It'd be
in the law
better if I
enforcement
was
community
you,
to have
too.
cameras everywhere in their stores. They have cameras outside, especially
Yeah,
the
I mean, if
Parkside
you're eating,
Walmart.
like-
So I got the information off of the
Like
the
barbecue
receipt that
pork
was
or
inside
something,
that bag
then
upstairs.
it'd
And
probably be better.
went to the Walmart
Oh,
where that data was
yeah,
pulled by the
true.
individual that was working loss prevention that night. We're able to observe it then and then fill out the formal request forms to go through the registered
That you made in your bathtub.
registered agent that produces those formally. But it was a starting point for the investigation, and that's where the video
sterilite
of
container.
Mr. Guy Jr. at the
I mean,
Walmart
you
making
can
the
start right
purchase.
now.
I believe it was on the 26th.
Scad says you're
During
normal,
the 3
so we're
o'clock
good.
hour. That's where
Okay.
that video was found and observed, and that's where we also learned the tag on his vehicle. Upon contact with the daughter, Michelle Dennison,
Severed
now
head
Tyler,
needs salt.
I learned that Joel was also in town for Thanksgiving over the holiday. There were no other people that she knew of that were staying at the residence or spending the night there or visiting from out of town. That they had done Thanksgiving and left. She described in pretty good detail the vehicle, which I observed in the Walmart video with the Louisiana tag, and in that having that knowledge and information combined with the obvious interpretation of the scene,
Louisiana?
we move forward with the investigation.
And so that's one receipt that was recovered
Mhm.
from the upstairs guest bathroom. Did you have cause to come across another receipt from the grocery store?
Yeah, from in the groceries, it was either the groceries or Lisa Guy's purse,
Excuse me.
where the receipt was located for the large purchase. And I did the same thing.
Genitals. Everybody tells me
information was
no,
relayed,
but I
to
think if you
Walmart
cook
personnel and the
mom's
video was produced.
head in the pot, you took a nibble.
Maybe.
If not, you're just wasting food. And there's kids in Philadelphia that go hungry every night, so we can't be doing that. More like mystery mud. Yeah.
Have to do dual layers.
Yeah, a sampler.
If you would, sir, tell us what we're looking at.
This is the, I'm sorry. This is the Walmart receipt that was located upstairs in the, what would be labeled the guest bathroom, detailing a date of
geez.
16 with a time of 15:35:25, which would be
did undress her.
3:35 p.m. and 25 seconds after 3:35, detailing information on the receipt to include items that were recovered inside the residence at 11434 Golden View.
So does it tell on that receipt how the items were paid for?
They were paid for using cash tendered was $40.
There's no way that was his $40.
Oh, no.
No, sir. Your Honor. Multiple pieces of that. Okay.
I'm going to show you what's been entered as case exhibit 358, sir. You can open that.
Oh, not another bag. Oh, that was. Oh, no, not that.
It's the purse collected from 11434 Golden View. There is still some.
Brought
cash
to you by
remaining in the bag.
Pantene.
And is this where the second receipt is coming from the large grocery purchase?
I believe so, sir.
Were there also receipts found for PetSmart on the same day?
Yes, there were.
Referring first to the Walmart receipt, sir, if you could tell us the identifier of that date regarding the transaction.
The transaction occurred. It's at the bottom of the receipt. It was this one is an older receipt. This is November 12th, 2016. This is a receipt that she had in there. And here's one from November 26, 2016 at 12:18, 18 minutes after noon at the 10,900 Parkside Drive, Walmart, detailing the items purchased are consistent with what was observed and documented at the Golden View address in the foyer. There's also various other receipts from other days that were in her purse. And then there's also a what appears to be a grocery list written on a note, beer, bacon, sausage, Ben & Jerry's, pistachio, dog snacks, Gain, OxyClean, and stain remover.
Is that consistent with the
Do you think he ate the dog snacks?
There, yes, there are some of that. There's some of that in there. Yes.
Definitely.
I would tend to agree. I just wonder what he did with the fingers when he was working in my ketchup, though.
Oh,
Well, yeah, that's exactly where they went.
We got a little bit ways further to go with this witness. We haven't had a break in a while, so let's go ahead and take a short recess. Do not discuss this case among yourselves or with anything else. You may leave your notebooks and chairs. I'll see you here in about 10 minutes.
Nobody get hurt on the slide during recess. Well, that is, and I lied. This is not another Walmart employee. This is the same guy talking about the Walmart shit the second time.
Oh no.
the first time. And he talks, I mean, that worked at 125. Oh.
Yeah, leave it there.
It's the same video from the 26th, yes.
Looking at the contents of the shopping cart, are those consistent with the items that were found in the interior of the front door?
Yes, sir, as well as the receipt located in her purse.
The contents of his carry. Who doesn't go to UScan? There is somebody working at the bagger. That's just throwing your shit in a pile on the table there.
Yeah, this is his mom. Digger.
Yeah, this is mom.
He's looking lovingly at it.
I just want to punch him at that point.
Yeah.
Wallet, are they seeing on the screen, is that consistent with the wallet found in the crime scene?
It appears so, yes.
And the purse that you see in the shopping cart, is that consistent with the purse you found in the crime scene?
Yes.
And the physical clothing that this guy's wearing, are those consistent with the clothing that was found on top of the stairs?
Bobby.
Yes.
That would be the hardest thing going through this trial with, somebody, being the victim is it would take everything not to wring his little fucking neck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other portion of this video. Did you also obtain video of this guy exiting the store on
She seems like a nice lady.
Yes.
And knowing that your mother ripped before you killed her, he seems to care less. No, he seems aroused by the whole process. Like, he's smiley, he's really attentive. Well, she was looking for the correct change, Bobby.
Jeez.
Oh. He killed her before she could put the same groceries away. Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Next, I'd like to go through what's been previously entered as State's Exhibit 349, sir. That's a video of, at this point, an unknown individual on November the 26th, 2016. I don't know if I could publish that.
Like, even the detective is mortified. And he's just like, yeah, fuck it. Whatever.
Go.
Mom wouldn't buy me fruit roll-ups, so I killed her.
That car was so close to hitting him.
couldn't hear you, sir.
Is this the video that you viewed?
Yes, sir, it is.
Is that the same individual who made the transaction of produced receipt at 3:35 p.m.?
It is, sir, and who was later identified as Joel Guy Jr.
And what is the individual who was later identified as Joe Guy Jr. doing?
Yes, genitals.
He's going through the
Our
the
criminal
pharmacy,
justice system
the sections
sucks.
labeled pharmacy, pain, and nicotine section for their camera purposes, and he's in the first aid section. And
Scad, we saw them proffering being able to use this footage with the Walmart employee. Now we're seeing it with the detective breaking it down.
Based on your review of the receipt and items that he purchased consistent with items that were found in the upstairs guest bathroom.
they are, sir.
You should have bought him that Snickers bar.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, he should be in the People of Walmart calendar. They could probably have a Murderers of Walmart, too.
Oh, even better.
He could be the cover child. Pretty much walk into any Walmart, and you'll pick out one that would fit. Just saying.
Yeah. Mm. Look at all those people not even caring, not knowing what he's done.
Mm-hmm.
I know, Deez.
Pharmacy
What I was
pain
saying.
nic-
It's just the first aid aisle.
Oh, okay.
And that's just what Walmart named their cameras. I think there was even someone riding on a bike, if I'm not mistaken.
That
Like a
makes sense.
tricycle.
I went to Walmart today to get a fucking light for my camper, and
Mhm.
a $3 tail light was locked behind a case, and I told them to go fuck themselves. So I'm not calling somebody to get a $3 fucking locked behind a goddamn case from Walmart.
So where'd you go?
Auto parts store.
Yeah.
Yeah, ours just got a remodel, so everything's behind fucking glass. Everything's locked. Everything. Even a $3 trailer light bulb. It was $3 for a 2-pack. So they were like $1.50.
Oh,
Better lock that up.
that's ridiculous. He's got a bandage on his wrist.
Yeah, because he cut his hand up.
Yeah.
He's obviously never used a knife before.
Based on your review, how's it paying for this?
Oh, and there's the
He's using
thumb
cash,
cut.
sir.
Ooh, okay. This is why I keep Dog Momma around. She's the only one actually paying attention.
occasion to observe Mr. Brown's hands while he was in this court?
On the video, you can see that he has what appears to be bandages covering some type of injury on his right and left hands.
Trying to make cookies and listen. But I think he's aroused, made me do a mental flip. No, I don't think he's like erect, but I think
No.
he's at a heightened state of
And that appears
arousal.
to,
Like he's
as he makes it on
enjoying
the
every
floor
bit
with
of
the
this.
one bag in above.
Yeah. Not like. Yeah.
His soldier's not standing at attention or anything. At least I
Right.
hope not.
Oh yeah, that'd be awful. Weird.
This is footage from the Walmart parking lot, and you'll be able to observe the defendant's vehicle with the Louisiana registration on the back of it. Drive through. That does capture it, yes. From that image, we were able to obtain the plate, obviously the plate
Mhm.
number for the vehicle. I believe to him, sir.
I'm going to come.
They're already there.
Mm-hmm. Half mast.
In the course of your investigation, sir, at some point was a BOLO issued based on the facts you had at the residence, the circumstances
tie?
you gathered from
I know what a
family,
bolo is. I'm
sister,
being
surviving family, if
smart-ass.
you will, and the license plate. Were you able to put out a BOLO, sir?
Yes, Be on the Lookout was issued through NCIC, which is a national database, by the sheriff's office, detailing the arrest warrant numbers as well as the defendant's description and the vehicle he was known to be operating.
And based on that, did you receive records from Vigilant Solutions?
Yes, sir, we did.
And Your Honor, based on a 902 affidavit that we've received and has been approved through the court, we would at this point introduce 5-piece documents that are different in time and date with the defendant's vehicle and license plate number traveling to and from Knoxville, Tennessee, with an accompanying 902 affidavit.
That's what I was laughing at.
Exhibit 642 will be what the court will be based on an affidavit we'll have put in the record. Vigilant Solution.
Demonstrating what's been pre-marked as state's exhibits 643 through 647 for identification, and ask you if you can identify those documents.
These are documents produced by Vigilant Solutions detailing a license plate recognition software that has hit on the subject's license plate.
At this point, we move in state's exhibits 643 through 47.
So what do you think the appetite is for this guy being studied involuntarily? Like, should we try and stop this kind of shit?
Ask that this will be published to you.
I think you can.
I don't know if you can either, but I just think it would be worth putting some time and money into studying weird fucking people like this guy.
Yeah.
Like, we certainly have at least 2 candidates
sir.
in our Discord that
least.
are like this guy.
The capture
At
is
least.
in the top right corner.
Maybe more.
It says vehicle spotted, and it's going to be for November 29th, 2016 at 7:34 a.m. Central Time.
We'll let you figure out who it is. Keep a copy.
I-59, and I cannot actually see that writing. In Pachuta. Yes. Missouri, I believe. Mississippi.
Mississippi.
Yes, sorry.
The next exhibit. What time and what date is the license plate of Joel Michael Guy Jr.'s vehicle?
That is the same. It's 11/29/16 at 7:08:04 a.m. Central Time, and the closest location is going to be in Meridian, Mississippi. It's on a highway, 106, Highway 11 and 80.
And the next time the vehicle registered to Joel Michael Guy Jr. was spotted?
11/28/16 at 1:05:31 a.m. Central Time.
Does not
Heidelberg,
mean-
Mississippi. Nearest intersection is I-59 County Road 333.
Next time that and these are in no particular order, the next time that the vehicle registered to Joel Michael Guy Jr. is spotted?
11/28/16 at 12:31:06 a.m. In Meridian, Mississippi. Nearest intersection is I-20 and US Highway 11.
And next is the time where the vehicle registered to Joel Michael Guy Jr. is spotted?
It's 11/23/2016 at 1:29:17 p.m. Central Time in Moselle, Mississippi, on I-59.
Oh, Zell.
You know where that's at?
Wasn't the Moselle property was the Murdaugh's property?
Was it? Okay.
The 28th is the first day the Knox County Sheriff's Office responded to 11434 Golden View Lane. Is that correct?
It is.
Okay. On the 29th, sir, were you contacted by Academy Sports?
We were through the BOA we had put out. We were given an alert.
I don't know, but there's got to be something.
And what was the basis of the alert, sir?
The
Patterns.
basis of the alert was an attempted firearms purchase at an Academy Sports.
Risk
And that's what the name
factors.
of the property
And by
was.
whom, sir?
Joel Michael Guy Jr.
And was the alert subject of the same date, the 29th?
I mean,
I would have to reference that. I believe so, though. I believe we got it fairly quick. Typically, when people attempt to purchase a firearm at a sporting goods store, you have to fill out paperwork, and that paperwork's submitted, and they do some type of background check to ensure that you can, in fact, purchase a firearm. And I believe that's when the alert came.
Okay. And at this point, based on the circumstance, totality of what you've seen at the scene, the physical evidence at the scene, videos that you observed, has a arrest warrant charging Joel Michael Guy Jr. with first-degree murder been issued?
It had been issued, yes, sir, already prior to the firearms purchase attempt.
oh, he tried to buy a gun afterwards? Dumbass.
And sir, do you see Joel Michael Guy Jr. present in the courtroom today?
He is here, yes, sir.
If you'd point him out. The record reflect that witness identified Joel Michael Guy Jr.
Very well.
And the events you testified to today, they occur here in Knox County.
They did.
We'll pass the witness round.
Except for what he said, sir.
Yeah, probably. Sorry about that.
Cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. Now, you mentioned something about the lockbox, the realtor lockbox. Are you familiar with them, how they're taken off and put on?
I know typically that the realtor will place that on, and there's some type of, depending on the type of box, there'll be a code or something to where somebody who can lawfully enter or that would have access to a residence while it's for sale can open that box, obtain a key to the residence, and enter the residence.
Now, going back to when you first arrived at the residence and went to the back door.
Yes, sir.
Chemical smells can indicate to an officer danger,
Yeah,
right?
it's true.
They can indicate several things, yes, sir.
But one of them would be danger.
And
Yes,
see,
sir.
for all
For
we know,
example,
he had a
meth
happy
lab
life.
could
I mean,
be
his parents
explosive, literally.
It did not smell like a meth lab.
No,
took
but
care of
still,
him, you know?
chemicals can be explosive in general.
Yes, sir.
And you could not identify what the
No
chemical smell
genitals.
was.
Not
Correct.
no,
Okay.
like that.
So, additionally,
Not
breathing
even
in
me.
unknown chemicals can hurt your lung and throat and area, right?
It can.
Okay. So usually as an officer, you would have to take precautions where you smell chemicals, right?
Sir, I would not have masked up or anything to
recipes would
go in per se. In a perfect world, I would have the materials for that, but I'm not equipped with that, and we take risks on a daily basis.
Okay. But at the back door, as you kind of noted in your direct, you did not say anything about the chemical smell
I did not.
or
Wait,
about
did
the
you
heat.
come in the back door?
No, I didn't. I don't believe I did.
But you, in addition to yourself, you also had a couple other officers, 3, I guess, who were going in with you, right?
Yes, sir.
but you didn't alert them to the chemical smell.
No, sir.
Now, is it possible that this was a pretty traumatic scene? Is that right?
It is very traumatic, yes.
And is it possible that you did not smell the chemicals until you went in the garage?
Sir, my observations at that time remained the same, and my testimony remains the same.
Okay. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you, investigator.
Thank you, sir.
All right, folks, it is
Brilliant
now 5
defense
o'clock.
work again.
Yeah.
We've got a lot
On top
accomplished
of
today.
it.
We still have some ways to go. So I'm going to send you home with the same instructions I've given you each time. That is, please do not discuss this case.
All right. So let's go on. That wasn't as painful as it could have been.
No, it wasn't that bad.
It was better than the other one.
Yes.
If the net proceeds, the lodge revenues are
highly prejudicial. We believe that having it for, in what's nearly a 4-year period, having been given it,
Look at him suck in that mask.
it's to no fault of the state. It's no fault of either
This
of these.
is the
these
jailhouse
prosecutors, but
photo. So this is the
nevertheless,
start of
state
day
was in
or
possession of it, and I think it should
jailhouse
be given,
phone
and I
call
think
started
we're
day
prejudiced by
3.
the fact that we have to move forward. So I'd ask the court to reconsider.
thanks, sir. John, anything you want to add?
Mr. McCracken had his phone number. They had his phone number. He could call in. He talked to me. He was not what I would call a happy witness. He was not really cooperative.
Eat potatoes.
A lot of and we limited this phone call to excerpts. We tried very hard to eliminate anything that would be prejudicial to the guy. And we have agreed not to ask Mr. McCracken to text a call on him for this session. So we're not going to go into that. And there we want to have him talk about his knowledge, having lived with the guy, how long they've known each other, that's the voice on the recognized voice on the call, that is his own voice on the call. So,
Oh no, Deez. Yes.
Yeah,
The answer is yes.
as I stated in the amended order, I did misunderstand what the state was saying. I thought that it was in law enforcement possession in Baton Rouge until recently. Then I was informed by the state that I misunderstood that. And I appreciate them correcting that misunderstanding. It was in Knox County from very early on, and certainly was subject to discovery. It's not a situation where it's being turned over in trial. I know 3 weeks compared to 4 years is not a significant period of time at all, but there was time to follow up on him. And what I meant by this no smoking gun, I think Mr. Guy was being very careful about what he was saying to avoid making any type of admission against interest, or certainly no confessions in there. There are certainly statements that could be perceived to be incriminating. So I do think that there's a significant relevance to it. And what I meant by smoking gun is it just didn't go so far as like, this is going to completely change the entire theory of the defense or the theory of the state. As I said, kind of early on, it's easier for me to make these evidentiary decisions once I know what the defense theory is. And at this point, I'm still traveling under the position that it's an identity issue, that he didn't do these crimes, because the proof that someone did this is overwhelming. And I don't think it's being disputed by the defense. So it really makes issues about whether or not he's the person who did this and what his intention was.
Oh no.
Highly
Defense
relevant.
also
So
thinks he did this.
even though it's incriminating, I don't think it's unfairly prejudicial. So I am going to let them play it. If they brought it forward in the middle of the trial, I think that would be a little bit different to me than something that was provided at least 3 weeks before the trial began. And it was a phone call the defendant made to somebody.
It was
he in a
just the whole
relationship
head scad.
with. And so I know it's not the defense responsibility to ask their client, who audited you talk to from the jail, but it's not a surprise to Mr. Guy if it was a surprise to his attorneys. So I'm going to maintain my ruling and allow the state to play the redacted portions. Yes, sir.
Yes, just along that same call, and we would just like to preserve for the record, as you know, we challenged the search of the house in Knoxville and also the arrest of Mr. Guy. We were overruled on both of those. We want to preserve for the record our argument that this call could be or would be fruit of the poisonous tree of both those things. Had Mr. Guy not been arrested on the faulty warrant, he wouldn't have been in jail making the call. They wouldn't have gotten the faulty warrant but for the illegal
guy's
search of
beard
that
and
Knoxville house. So we just want to
face
make sure
mask.
that when we come back on appeal, if we do, no one will say that we waived the fruit of the poisonous tree argument.
I certainly don't think that you're waiving. I disagree with it, but I think you have done a good job, Mr. Halstead, in preserving the record. I understand the objection.
And I would also say, I don't know if we're going to see the Louisiana officers about the arrest today, but, okay. I just want to make sure that they don't ask whether Mr. Guy was asked to make a statement. He asserted his
Add
right to
quote
counsel,
unquote
so
roommate.
I assume we won't be going there in terms of the discussion.
Be any comments on his invocation of
Yeah.
his rights?
Absolutely. I've tried to admonish every witness repeatedly to avoid any reference to the Baton Rouge search.
Or him saying,
Yes.
I want to talk to the lawyer.
Absolutely.
All right. Let me imagine the
This
state.
prosecutor
I have a brief
seems
matter.
pretty
We had Eddie
fair.
Bossman
I
on
mean,
yesterday, and we went through his
Yeah.
report page by page, and I overlooked admitting
Kind
the
of a
report. I would ask to late file
easy
that as the
case
next state's exhibit.
to
up top
deal
to-
with, but
It is what he testified to yesterday with the contents of the 2 cell phones and the desktop computer. Where that's it. You're on financial transactions. It's
Yeah.
not a Cellbrite report. I think it was a UFED report.
Yeah,
But I
Digger.
didn't introduce the actual UFED examination.
Are there any objections to the report?
We do not agree that they can file this now, but we object to it.
Yeah, I'm going to let you recall him if you want to get that in. I don't want to just add it to his testimony, but I will let you recall him just for the sole purpose of having him say this in the report.
Yes, sir. Thanks, sir.
All right.
Do you want to take up the issues with these Louisiana officers before the jury comes in? Because we're going to go pretty quickly.
This is
And
about the search issues.
no,
Are we
it's-
good
it's
to
about
skip
the-
this?
It's about the videos.
Yes.
That we were intending to offer.
Please have a seat, sir. Once you're seated, you may remove your mask. Thank you. We called you in here before the jury arrives, just so we can do an offer of proof. So Attorney General's going to ask you a few questions.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you state your name for the record, please?
It's Robert King, King.
And Mr. King, can you tell the court where you were employed and what your duties were back in November and December of 2016?
I was a special agent with the FBI and I was assigned to the New Orleans Division's Baton Rouge resident agency.
of course he
Now,
was a glowy.
Agent King, you are aware that we are not making reference to anything that was taken from the Baton Rouge search of Joel Guy's apartment?
Yes.
And you've been made aware of that?
Correct.
And also that we're not to make any reference to the fact that Mr. Guy, within his rights, reserved his right not to speak to law enforcement. So
Yes,
you're
ma'am.
aware of that. Okay. So my questions are, once you received information from Knox County Sheriff's Office employees, and I believe you're also working in concert with Scott Henning with the East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office. Is that correct?
Correct. We involved them when we were attempting to locate the subject so we could arrest him. And since it was in their parish, we contacted them and kind of worked jointly.
Did you participate in the defendant's arrest?
Yes.
And on what date did that occur?
Hey,
I have to
Shenny.
review the 302.
Does it sound like?
I mean, the
November
defense
29th?
has to work off something.
That's roughly
2016?
They have
roughly correct,
shit
yes.
for a
Who was
case.
present with you when you?
Yeah.
We had probably 5 or 6 other agents from the Baton Rouge office and a few people from the East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office. And there may have been one LSU police officer there.
Okay, was Lieutenant Henning with you?
I believe so, yes.
And where did this arrest take place?
At the defendant's outside his apartment.
So
on the
he was
apartment grounds.
outside.
Yes, he was.
Okay.
Came outside, and once he got to the bottom of the stairs and walking towards his car, we arrested him by his vehicle.
Do you mind speaking into the microphone?
I'm sorry.
I'm kind of hard of hearing, so I just want to make sure that I'm understanding you.
Okay.
So when he was placed under arrest, I take it you had an opportunity to observe his appearance,
Yes,
and had you looked at any photographic evidence of his appearance before making this arrest? I mean, how did you know that it was him?
we had pictures that the sheriff's office here had sent down to us to look at, so we were working off of those. And then when he came out, he looked basically like his pictures, as far as I can remember that we had.
Okay. How long would you say you had an opportunity to observe his appearance when you arrested him?
It was a good while. After he was arrested, he was placed in one of the vehicles to be transported. So it probably 10 or 15 minutes because we took care of him, made sure he didn't have any weapons or anything, put him in the car and kind of formulated a plan moving forward from there. So he was there and then transported off. So long enough to sit there and see him.
As part of your what you did with respect to this investigation and assisting officers with the investigation, did you travel to certain store locations in the Baton Rouge area in the days subsequent to Mr. Guy's arrest?
The Baton Rouge and Gonzales area, yes. And Gonzales is just a suburb of Baton Rouge.
Okay. So
I
on November
don't
30th,
actually remember, Digger.
2016, did you go to a Lowe's department store in Gonzales, Louisiana?
Yes,
And did you interview Charles Spears,
yes.
records custodian or
He was I can't remember his exact title, but he was their security person in charge of cameras and loss prevention for the store.
It was life.
And while you were there, did you have an opportunity to review any kind of video?
2 counts.
Yes.
With him? Okay.
Or 2
And were you able to identify the
consecutive.
defendant as the person you observed on that video?
Right. The video that we identified, we were able
No
to see the defendant
spoilers.
on
No
there. And
spoilers,
once we did that, we
genitals.
asked for them to make a copy so we could take it and provide it to the investigators, which we did.
Okay. And did this video depict the defendant making a purchase on November the 7th, 2016 at approximately 12:40 p.m.?
Yes.
Okay. And
It's still a
Did
coin
you,
flip. I want it to be, you know.
did
I
it
wanna be
also include a
surprised.
video depicting his exit from the store and his vehicle in the parking lot?
I believe so, because we would ask for.
That
once
is
we found the
controversial,
defendant,
amazing.
The
You're
video, we would
lucky
ask
I
for any
allow
other
full
videos
dissent
associated with that.
in
Since
this
they have multiple
chat.
cameras, we would try to make sure we had him all the way through the parking lot, the vehicle and out. And I believe that one did have him getting into a vehicle.
Is obtaining store videos an investigative practice that you have done in the past?
Tons of time.
Yeah, I wish we could have
I'm a
seen
subject
that
matter
too.
expert in child abductions, and we travel
Yeah,
a
that
lot.
would have been
and over the
nice.
career, we obtained a lot of video, and there's so many ways to locate and identify specific videos or specific items. It's not that difficult anymore, especially with the systems that all these retailers have, because they track inventory and where it's placed in the stores. With a little legwork, you can get to pretty much whatever you want.
Are you familiar with Lowe's department stores?
Oh, yeah.
Lowe's home goods stores, I'm sorry.
Yes.
And you've been to them before. Have you ever obtained video from them before?
I'm sorry, what?
Have you ever obtained video from a Lowe's store in the past?
Yes.
And have you had an opportunity to review the recording of that transaction on November the 7th, 2016 at 12:40 p.m.? Have you had an opportunity to review that recently?
Yes, I did.
And is it the same video that you saw back on November 30th, 2016?
Yes, ma'am. Because what we normally do, I would always do, is once we obtain it from the store, it always plays on their players. I get back to the office, I put it in our machines to make sure it works, because sometimes the proprietary software doesn't necessarily work when you leave the store. Make sure it works on ours, and then I send it off.
Okay. And do you have any experience in tracking products using product codes?
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell the court a little bit about how that works, or how you do that?
Again, I learned that through doing a lot of child abductions. We would find certain items, they would have barcodes of items of interest, and we would start narrowing down, trying to figure out what stores. We'd always start with the big stores and say, hey, is this one of your products? Sometimes their national products are going to be in a lot of stores. Then we would try to refine it based on any other information we had to look. A lot of the stores now, most of them, you can pull up the barcode. They can tell you it's theirs. Then they can pull up and say, well, we sold 6 of those over the last 2 weeks. Then they can go to those videos from there. One instance, we were able to find a trash bag that's made specifically for one store and only sold at one store. It was something we could do. So with a little work, you can pretty much get there. I mean, there's going to be probably 1 in a million you can't, but with a little work, going from store to store, you could get what you want with the barcode.
So a store bag that identifies the name of the store, that would be one tool that would assist you in narrowing your focus. Is that a fair statement?
It would make your job a lot easier, because that would be one of the ones I would start with before we expanded our search.
And in your experience, do certain stores like Home Depot or Lowe's or Walmart have products that are exclusive to that particular store?
Yes, I know Walmart does. I believe Lowe's. I think Walmart, great value. Maybe one of theirs that's made for Walmart and Sam's exclusively.
Okay. And in respect to this investigation, I believe that you spoke to a Leanne Hildebrandt in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, who was a asset protection person in a Walmart in Baton Rouge. Is that
Spit
correct?
it out, lady.
Yes.
And that would have been around December the 7th, 2016?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did you use your knowledge of barcodes to help identify a transaction that took place in that Walmart store?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Now I want to direct your attention to an interview you did on December the 6th, 2016 with Aaron Haskins, who was the multi-store asset protection manager for Home Depot in Baton Rouge. And I want to ask you if you had an opportunity to interview him with respect
Oh,
to
don't start with the
search for any kind of video surveillance.
She's all shook,
evidence,
so now she's on everything.
Yes, I did.
Okay. And did you review video with Aaron Haskins?
With that one, it took him some time to make us a copy. Our office is maybe a quarter mile from there. So when Mr. Haskins called, I went, picked up the video, looked at it there, make sure it was good. He said, if we have any problems, let him know. I took it back to the office again, viewed it on our computer, and then forwarded it to the Knox County Sheriff's Office.
But you did view it at the Home Depot store in
Yes.
Baton Rouge. Okay. And then you reviewed it again at your office to make sure that it was operable.
Now,
correct?
mistakes learned from not doing that early in my career, and you send it off and then you have to go back and do it again. So yes.
And this would have been the Home Depot store number 3070 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Yes.
And the transactions were for November the 18th, 2016 at there were two transactions actually, one at 2:29 p.m. and again at 3:01 p.m. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct.
Okay, and you've had an opportunity recently to review that video again. Is that correct?
Yes.
And is it the same video that you saw when you viewed it in your office in Baton Rouge and in the Home Depot store in Baton Rouge back in December of 2016?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Whoa, we went to Home Depot too? What a shopping spree for this man.
Yep.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, sir.
So in terms of getting the videos, you actually had, because of the Louisiana search, you had some receipts, correct?
I mean,
I'm sorry, of which
In terms of looking for
say I blame him.
videos, you had
Amazing.
some receipts from the
I would.
Louisiana apartment search. Is that right? Do you recall that? And this is the jury out hearing. I'm just
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I didn't.
I'm
overstep.
sorry.
Okay.
You can say anything.
I'm sorry, I should have been clearer.
Yes, sir, we did.
So some of what you're talking about, the barcode searches, weren't actually done in this case, right? Not all of them. The barcode searches.
No, we did barcode searches, but the receipts that we found, there was, of course, item barcodes and stuff. I mean, the receipts had store locations and different things on them, and the items are listed. And then you take that for location, and then you can take other evidence that was obtained in different searches with barcodes, and that helps narrow the search to go, hey, I want to go to Home Depot or Lowe's first, as opposed to every little store in Baton Rouge.
Okay. So let's say that you did not have the receipts. Do you recall looking for the purchases of Sterilite tubs, big blue tubs that were eventually found having been purchased at a Walmart?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's say that you look at the
This
barcode for
jackass
those
didn't
tubs,
leave
and that's all you know.
everything to
That
get
just
them
tells
on the
you is-
table. Would you have had to
What does
work?
that tell you?
It'll tell you, it depends on the system and the barcode, how much information they've entered into all these different databases that are public. But when you go there, it has a SKU on it. It says what the item is, item number. So we take that and we would go to a store and find an asset protection manager and go, we're trying to find out if your store sells this specific item with this barcode. And they look in the system and they'll say, yes, we have that SKU in our system, barcode SKU. Or no, we don't. If they don't have it, then we go to the next store. If they do, then that's when we take the next step to say, does your system allow it to show when that was sold or where it is in the store? And then we start working from there.
Okay. So let's say that you have these tubs, you have the barcode. So do you have to search every store in Louisiana? Is that what you're saying?
If we didn't find the store, and to be thorough, you would have to keep going and going until you found one. Based on all my experience, like I said, I've done this, look for evidence a lot. Yeah, we always start with the big brand stores, the Walmarts, the Lowe's, and then we would work our way down maybe to the Dollar Generals and that type stuff, depending on the areas.
Okay. And then, so when you find that it was a Walmart store, then you have to check every Walmart store until you find that particular purchase?
Right. If you don't have the receipt with the specific one, for example, if we wanted to say, I'm trying the Walmart, if I went to one, he might say, this is our item, check his system and go, we didn't sell any of those over the last week, 2 weeks, whatever the time frame we were looking at. Then I would go to the next one. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 Walmarts in the geographic area of Baton Rouge. So we would have gone to those, especially knowing that the subject was already at Lowe's. So we knew that would be one. The Walmart's maybe a quarter mile from the Lowe's in Gonzales. So that would have been one logically would have checked. Also, the one by Burbank, I believe, is the closest one to his apartment in Louisiana. So you take all the information, the whole picture of the case, and you start there is where your search starts.
So let's say we go to a Walmart and they say, we sold 6 of these in the last 30 days. But that doesn't tell you, their system doesn't tell you when they sold it?
Yes, sir. They can pull up a lot of times, and they can pull up and say, okay, we sold these six of them in 30 days. Then everything's so electronic now with the scanners and all. They can say, okay, those items were sold on aisle 4, 5, and 6, and here's the date and the time that those were sold.
Well,
That's
but
terrifying.
in your experience, not all stores have that capability. Is that right?
Yeah, and some of the mom and pop stores, the smaller stores, but the big chain stores, the bigger ones usually have that capability, so they can tell you what aisle the product's on and everything else.
So then you would have to search, or you would have to then look through all of those videos so they say we can tell it was sold in aisle 3, 4, or 5. Did you say they can tell you a time frame or just that it was sold there?
They would say it's several things. They could tell you sometimes what aisle it's actually on, and then they can go in their system and say, we sold it, arbitrary date, January 1, 2020, it was sold, and it went through register 5 at 4:19 p.m. Then he would turn around and go to his surveillance system, rewind the cameras to that specific date, and you start watching, and then you can see whoever came through on January 1 at that time with that item.
Damn.
Now, you mentioned the number of stores within the geographic area. Does that include like the Gonzales store?
Yes, sir.
as being the Baton Rouge geographic area?
It's probably 8 or 9 miles from one to the other.
Okay. And do you know how many Lowe's there are in that area?
I know there's one Lowe's, either 2 to 3 Lowe's, and I think 2 Home Depots. And then you can start getting into Denham Springs, and then there's another one once you get a little further out.
Scat, I've never heard that expression, but I'm loving it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that one of your southernisms?
Now,
Hissing up a rope?
at least there was a time when video wasn't retained.
I've never
very
heard of
long,
it.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Are you aware of how
Exactly.
long the stores such as Walmart retains video?
I can't recall. They all vary. Some of the larger ones actually keep it
That's cool.
for years, some 30 days, and they loop over some 24 hours, and it rewrites itself. So it's really store specific or company specific.
So you don't know what the policy is for Walmart?
No, sir.
You don't know what the policy is for Home Depot?
No, sir. I just know based on some experience, it's not a 30-day rewrite. They have a little bit longer period of time to hold those videos than the smaller places.
And you don't know what the policy is for Lowe's?
No, sir.
Yes, I forgot to ask him. You also went to.
No, I've never
Academy
heard of
Sports
pissing up a
on
rope.
November the 30th. Is that correct?
That's correct.
2016?
Yes.
Nope.
And you recovered video from that store as well.
Yes.
Is that correct? And that depicted transactions from November the 18th, 2016 and November the 19th, 2016.
That's correct. Yes, ma'am.
Hell yeah.
You had an opportunity to review those?
Yes.
transactions?
Yes.
Are they the same as what you observed when you?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Yeah, we follow the same process. We pick it up, we check it at the office before we turn it over to the sheriff's office to make sure it works.
So if the date of the offense in question in this trial is November the 26th, 2016, all of the videos that you saw were generated within 30 days of the date of the offense. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Yes, just briefly. But you did not go November 26th to Academy Sports? Or, right, but she said within a week of, or within 30 days of November 26th.
I'd have to look at the whatever reports, but we went, it was pretty quick once we got the call from Knox County saying, this is going on, can you help us? It was very quick after that date.
Do you know their policy for how long they keep tapes?
No, sir, I believe it's like Lowe's and Home Depot. They keep theirs a little longer because we have been to their stores before looking for stuff and thinking that they weren't going to have it. And we were shocked that they kept it, but I can't give you exact time frame.
Do you know how specific their system is if you came and said someone purchased, or we're trying to say if someone purchased a knife here? Do you know how specific their system is about particular purchases?
Theirs was pretty good, I recall, because we were able to find a suspect in stores on certain aisles and everything. So theirs is very complex as well as Walmart's.
Well, but again, did you have a receipt when you were doing that from the apartment?
I can't remember if we had the receipt, but even if you didn't, if you get there through a barcode and looking and have an item number and description, you'll be able to find what you need. Granted, if it's within the time you asked for.
Shit.
Okay. But you don't know if their system is such that they could tell you what day it was purchased on or what days purchases of those knives were made.
We were able to find all that when they were looking through their system. Yes, sir. But I'm not sure exactly which one we used because I don't want to discuss the evidence that was taken, but we would have gotten there the same way as we would have looked for it. They would have said this was sold on this date and at this time. Their system's the same as Walmart is what you're getting at. Yes, sir.
Thank you. That's all.
I want you to after the record, Your Honor, please, that we do have an affidavit from the Academy Sports loss prevention, director of loss prevention, and custodian of records. So the only store we do not have an affidavit for is the Home Depot in Baton Rouge. And then the affidavit that I have in my possession right now would need to be redacted from Dan Boudreaux. So and I have another officer to offer proof with respect to that issue.
All right, thanks, sir. You may step down. Just remain in the hallway. We'll call you in here when the jury gets here just a little bit later. Okay, Your Honor. Other witnesses on offer proof.
And I would also remind the court that Detective McCord received a phone call on the 29th of November from Academy of Sports. We had that testimony yesterday regarding the defendant's attempt to purchase a firearm on that date. So he was alerted to that.
Sports store that the earlier purchase were made in. Thanks, sir. We're getting the chair cleaned off for you right now. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony about to give in the case now on trial will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, help you God?
I do.
Please have a seat, sir. Once you see you may remove your mask.
Just state your name for the record, please.
Gary Coleman.
And
No.
Mr. Coleman, where were you employed back in November and December of 2016?
FBI Violent Crimes Task Force, New Orleans, Louisiana.
No.
And did you work in cooperation with the Knox
Seriously?
County Sheriff's Office and
Agent
the
Gary
East Baton
Coleman's
Rouge
my favorite.
Sheriff's Office with respect to the arrest of Joel Guy, the defendant in this case?
Yes.
Can you tell the judge what your role in that was?
I thought so too,
My
Scan.
role was to go
He
to
just went to work for the FBI.
in Napoleonville, Louisiana, and to obtain any type of documents or video regarding transactions that may have occurred at that particular hardware store relative to the defendant.
And did you travel to that store in Napoleonville on December the 1st, 2016?
Yes.
And did you speak to Dan Boudreau, who is the owner of this Ace Hardware store?
Yes.
Did Mr. Boudreau provide video surveillance for you?
Yes.
And was that surveillance, did it depict the defendant on November the 7th, or did it
Just
depict
a couple.
person making a purchase
Yep.
on November the 7th, 2016?
Camera had 6 inches.
It was a purchase. I don't remember the exact date, but he did show us a video of the defendant.
And had you ever seen Joel Guy before? Were you able to identify him from the video? Did you participate in his arrest?
I didn't participate in his arrest, but I think I may have saw some photographs of him perhaps, but I was able to recognize who he was.
You did recognize him?
Yes.
Okay. And have you had an opportunity to review that video again?
Yes.
And is it the same as it was when you looked at it on December the 1st, 2016?
Yes.
And can you tell the court how close Napoleonville is to Baton Rouge?
Maybe 30 miles, maybe 25 miles. I'm not certain. I'm based out of New Orleans, but it's relatively close. It's a maybe 25, 30-minute drive.
All right. And did you also, at the very same time, on the same date, receive, were you working with another agent?
Yes, I was working with a task force officer by the name of Michael Tucker.
Michael Tucker. Okay. And did you go to Assumption Pharmacy, or was that Mr. Tucker, Agent Tucker?
I went together with Mr. Tucker to the pharmacy.
Okay. And did they provide you with
Agent
video
Tucker, Chris
surveillance
Tucker,
footage of
Gary Coleman.
depicting a person leaving the
Yeah.
parking lot?
Oh, wow.
Yes.
And was that also on November the 7th? Was that dated on November 7th, 2016, when the person was leaving the parking lot?
Yes, that sounds right.
Okay. And did you review that video?
Yes.
And did you review it at
Right.
the time that you talked to the person at Assumption Pharmacy?
Yes.
And did you review that again recently?
How dare
Did
you?
be the same video?
Yes.
And was that video turned over to Knox County Sheriff's Office in December of 2016?
Yes, it was turned over. I don't remember the exact date, but
Okay.
we turned it over.
All right. Thank you very much. Pass the witness.
When you went to the Academy Sport, I mean, to the Ace Hardware, when you went there, what information did you have that you were working off of?
We had information that we received from a supervisor tasking us with going to that particular store to obtain whatever evidence or video regarding what occurred at that particular store in terms of what was purchased and video of who purchased it.
Were you told the date and time that the item was purchased?
I can't recall whether we were told date and times, but I think we were told, I think given the category of chemicals or something, perhaps.
So when you get to the store and you say a chemical purchase, obviously, I guess you knew the types of chemicals. What did they have to do to find those items?
One of the individuals who worked at the store went to some system where they catalog purchases or dates or times or by item. They did some type of hand computer research or something that they eventually were able to cross-reference and come up with a date and a time.
How many videos did you have to watch? Was it just one, or did they show you several to try and identify?
Well, I only saw the one that they found, but they did some preliminary work prior to them ever actually pulling up the video. So I kind of meandered around the store, just looking around while they did what they needed to do to get what we needed.
How long were you there? Do you remember?
35 to 40 minutes, perhaps.
Now, did you have a photo of, or anything else of the suspect?
I think we may have had a photo, but I don't recall sharing that or giving that to anyone at the store, but I think we did have a photo.
Now, do you remember what day you went there? You may have testified. I may have missed it. Do you remember what day you went there?
I think it was in December, maybe December the 1st, perhaps, of 16.
One moment, please. So do you recall where you're kind of vague on the photo. Do you recall where it came from or?
I don't remember, sir. I was in a support role on that particular case. We're violent crimes task force. We respond to bank robberies, cruise ship. We do a lot of vesting up in and out of vehicles. And I wasn't the primary lead on that case. So I just don't recall.
Thank you. That's all.
Anything else, Jim? Thanks, sir. You may go back to the hallway. We'll call you in just a few minutes. For the proof. Okay.
Weeks. So
There's two issues.
and then the Academy Sports, obviously we have the records custodian's affidavit for that.
So there's two issues, and offer proof primarily is going to the issue of whether or not these videos are fruit of the poisonous tree from the search of the defendant's apartment, which I've ruled was unconstitutional. And so I don't think there's any question his apartment were used to hone in on these videos. But as I said in my written ruling, and I think that the offer of proof supports that finding, is that I do believe that these videos are not subject to suppression due to inevitable discovery. You have to remember that we have more than receipts here. If we were talking about items that were found in the defendant's apartment and the receipt was in the apartment, I would say, yes, you can't go back and get a video for that. But what we're talking about, I believe, my understanding, are items that were found in the Golden View home. And when the police, we've already seen over the last 2 days, the massive amount of care and collection or time that they took in collecting everything they possibly could find there. And there were items that were clearly connected to these homicides.
Even the body juice.
You don't normally have 3 jugs of bleach and large industrial size bottles of drain cleaner. And when you combine that with what they found in the home, these are obviously instruments being used in the homicides and alleged abuse of corpse. And so I think that we heard the testimony from the officers that they would have used these product codes to find out where these items are sold. They would start with the large stores, which is where most of these products are purchased, other than the Dan Boudreaux. And then we had the Post-it note from the suitcase in the Golden View home that specifically listed the name and address of that hardware store. And a product. I don't know if it's the same one that was actually purchased there, but a similar product. And so even though I believe that the search of the apartment was unconstitutional, I don't think that the videos that were subsequently discovered for products that weren't found in the apartment are still admissible, because they were going to find these anyway. Now, I certainly think the receipts saved them a lot of time and helped them find them quicker. Academy Sports, they knew about that.
Get rid of your receipts.
The attempted gun purchase as well too. So I don't think that it is fruit of the poisonous tree, and I'm just going to affirm my prior ruling on that.
Detective McCord acted
Affirmative.
immediately on the Walmart receipts. So I mean, there was urgency to try to.
Don't never keep your receipts.
He went the very same day
Nope.
that the bodies were found.
Burn them with the parents.
I think it's key that the Baton Rouge stores weren't searched until after they had developed Mr. Guy as a suspect and knew where he lived. And so the places they looked, I think we heard testimony from one of the agents that it was the Walmart closest to his home, I believe is what he said. In any event, right or wrong, that's going to be my ruling. I'm going to let the videos come in. Now, the 902 issue, the affidavits, I think we've addressed most of those. And I do think that one is problematic. Perhaps we can redact it. I need to go back and read it again. I was expecting another one, so I didn't. Yeah. All right. Any other preliminary matters, Mr. Halstead?
Well, I think they're telling us that they don't have the affidavits for Home Depot in Louisiana.
Yes, or
So
eat them.
Do we agree that those will not
Digger.
be admitted into evidence?
Eat them.
Eat the
The
receipt.
videos, you mean?
Yep.
I mean, I don't know how else you're going to enter it if you don't have
And the
if you don't have a
parents.
witness or you don't have a proper authentication.
I do have a witness for the Home Depot. I have Agent King, and I do have a witness for Dan Boudreaux, Agent Coleman. So
Fuck it. We'll skip these guys because they're just talking about what they're going to talk
for the
about
reasons
tomorrow.
that we have stated
Yeah.
through the testimony of Agent King.
Well, later. Did we didn't even get to the jailhouse phone call, or was this all just procedural bullshit?
Oh, really?
A surveillance or security video of the kind we're dealing with. One.
Well, fuck that. All right, so chat, you can vote. We can. Oh, here's another. I didn't go this far ahead
Another-
because I didn't think we'd make it, but
It's at 1.25 speed, baby.
I know I forgot about that. Well, I didn't take that into account. So we can either go to the medical and then I can. Yeah, let's do that. We're gonna bounce around just a touch. And
Light
go to the
rain.
medical portion.
That's funny.
Medical and roommate.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in the case now on trial will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Please have a seat, Dr. Halls, and you may remove your mask now that you're behind the glass and speak in the microphone.
Oh shit, they went fast today.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Would you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Sure. My name is Dr. Amy Hawes, Hawes.
And where are you employed?
I'm currently employed as the Deputy State Medical Examiner for the Tennessee Office of the State Chief Medical Examiner.
November the 20th. In November of 2016, where were you employed?
I was employed and as an assistant medical examiner at the Knox County Regional Forensic Center here in Knoxville.
And can you tell the jury a little bit just about what your job entailed? What do you do? What did you do?
Sure.
She does.
By trade, I'm a forensic pathologist, and a forensic pathologist is a doctor who is specially trained to investigate how and why people die. My official appointment as a medical examiner is the title that's given to me through the authority, through the state law that
Mini
appoints
cats.
every county in Tennessee with a medical examiner and an assistant medical examiner if needed. So again, my specialty of medicine is forensic pathology.
Could you please describe for the jury your educational background and training?
I received a bachelor's degree in chemistry at Middle Tennessee State University. After going to MTSU, then I went to medical school at Meharry Medical College in Nashville, where I received my 4-year medical degree. Then I did 5 years of training in anatomic and clinical pathology, and that was at Vanderbilt University Medical Center in Nashville. After 5 years of residency, then I did an additional year of training in forensic pathology, and that was at the Miami-Dade County Medical Examiner's Office in Miami, Florida.
Right. Do you belong to any professional organizations?
I do. I'm a member of the National Association of Medical Examiners, the American Academy of Forensic Sciences, and the College of American Pathologists.
Have you ever had teaching responsibilities as a part of your
Oh yeah, trigger warning.
experience?
I have, through my approximately 20 years of experience as a medical examiner, I have had various appointments for teaching, including at Meharry Medical College.
This may be
at,
graphic.
Vanderbilt University Medical Center, and also here at UT Medical Center as well.
Okay.
Do what?
And have you been qualified?
This may
as
be
an expert
graphic.
witness in the area of forensic
Trigger
pathology?
warning.
Oh yeah,
Courts of
I think so.
Tennessee in the past.
Yes.
Pictures
times?
probably
I don't keep an exact count, but it's been many times over approximately 20 years.
more than likely.
And how many autopsies have you performed?
Again, I don't keep an exact count. It's several thousand at this point. On average, I do between 250 and 350 autopsies or examinations per year. So at this point, it's several thousand.
Have some of those autopsies included an examination of victims of sharp force injuries?
Yes.
And at this time, Your Honor, please, I would ask that we are tendering Dr. Amy Hawes as an expert in the area of forensic pathology.
Any objection? All right, folks, the court is going to recognize Dr. Halls as an expert in the area of forensic pathology. Once again, that allows her to render her opinion within her area of expertise. Also, once again, just because an expert witness renders their opinion does not mean that you are bound to accept it. It's your job to judge the weight and credibility to be given her testimony, just like every other witness. But she is an expert and may render her opinion.
Thank you. Dr. Hawes, are you here today to testify as to the cause and manner of death of Joel Guy and Lisa Guy?
Yes.
I would like for you to just describe how you became involved in the case, when you first became aware of it, and what you did in response to the call.
Yeah, so again,
Right,
at that
trigger
time in
discipline as well.
2016, I was working at the Knox County Regional Forensic Center as an assistant medical examiner. And one of the medical death investigators, who is an assistant to the medical examiner in our office, received a call about two deaths that occurred in a home here in Knoxville. And I, along with that medical death investigator, went out to the scene.
Okay. And can you tell the jury how many people were at the scene when you arrived?
Do you mean how many people were deceased at the scene, or how many people?
Were there?
Oh, there were several. It's not my role as medical examiner to keep a log of how many people are at the scene, but there were multiple
no, this is
people there.
Emmy
Law
Light
enforcement
Green.
officers there?
Yes.
Okay. And tell the jury just what your steps are when you arrive at a scene. What is it that you, what do you do?
Yeah, so the overall goal for the medical examiner is to document the relationship of the body or body parts at the scene in relation to the overall scene. So part of an autopsy, or part of determining the cause and manner of death, is not just doing the autopsy. You have to take other information into account when you're making your cause and manner of death determination. So it was my role and the role of the death investigator to document the remains, the human remains that we found there at the scene, and their relationship to any other evidence that might be at the scene.
And the technician who accompanied you, what role does the technician have?
So she's not a technician. She was a medical death investigator.
Okay.
Yeah. So her role is to be the eyes and ears. So for other scenes, the medical death investigators will typically go on their own. But because of the nature of the scene, the presence of a pathologist was requested. So the role of the medical death investigator, again, is to document both with photography and in written form the relationship of the remains at the scene with any other evidence that might be there. So the medical investigator is typically the eyes and ears of the pathologist at the death scene.
And I take it you review whatever photographs or information this examiner is able to present to you at some point.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, would you just describe for the jury, please, your observations when you were there?
Sure. Well, there were many observations, so I don't know if you just want me to start in general, or if there's a specific area of the residence you wanted me to
I would just really like your overall impression of what you saw.
Okay, so when I arrived with our death investigator, we were greeted outside the residence with law enforcement agents. I don't remember their exact names at the time, but there was more than one. And there was a description, just kind of an overall debriefing of what had already been found inside the home. And when we entered the home, there were multiple rooms in the home that seemed to be involved as part of the crime scene. There were many chemicals that were scattered in different areas throughout the home. There were many blood spots in different areas throughout the home. And there were also multiple dismembered body parts in various rooms throughout the home. So our overall impression was that this was a very complicated and unusual crime scene.
Right. And do you know how long you were there?
Several hours.
Okay.
Again, we arrived middle of the afternoon, and it was well after dark when we left. So I don't have the exact log in front of me, but it was several hours that we were there.
When you first arrived, were you did you perceive by your senses a change in temperature or any sort of olfactory observations?
Yeah, it was warm inside the home. Felt like it got warmer as we were there because we spent more time in the upstairs area of the home. So it was warm. And once we proceeded away from the kitchen and up onto the second floor, there was a strong chemical odor and there was a slight odor of decomposition. It wasn't overwhelming, but there was what I would describe as a chemical odor.
Okay. And can you tell the jury how you directed the transportation of the human remains to the forensic center?
Yeah, so it was a very complex process. And the reason why it was complex is because the remains were not in such a state that we were able to just place the remains in one body bag like we would do if it was an intact deceased person. So not only were the remains in multiple pieces, but there were two large bins, plastic bins, like storage bins that were in the upstairs master bath that were filled with some type of chemical. And it was clear from looking at the body, we will then document our findings both in written form and with photographs. And sometimes we will do ancillary studies or extra studies like we did in this case, including taking x-rays.
Okay. Which autopsy did you perform first?
I began processing the remains of Mrs. Guy initially, but in reality, the examination of both remains were happening simultaneously. There's more than one examination at the forensic center, so they were both being done at the same time.
Okay, and did this occur on November the 29th of
Yes.
2016?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's start with And I take it you prepare a report once you have made your findings. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Approach the witness.
What did I miss? Oh, yeah, you're right. 736.
All right, Dr. Huss, I'm going to show you what has been marked for identification as Exhibit 736 and ask you if you recognize this document.
Yes, I do.
What is it?
It's a copy of the autopsy report of Mr. Joel M. Guy Sr.
All right, thank you. Judge, we would ask you to introduce this evidence, and I would like to ask Dr. Laws questions about her examination.
Any objection to Exhibit 736, the autopsy report coming in?
No.
All right, Exhibit 736 will be received as autopsy report of Joel M. Guy Sr.
So if you would just please discuss the contents of your report and your findings with respect to Mr. Guy.
Sure. So again, the autopsy is an examination of the outside of the inside of the body. And the first thing to note with Mr. Guy is his remains had been dismembered. The arms had been removed at the shoulders. The legs had been removed at the hips. His head was completely skeletonized, and there was some area of defect of the bone of the forehead. The bone in that area was in such poor condition that it was impossible to tell whether that was from the chemicals in which the skull had been or whether it was from blunt trauma. There was skin remaining primarily on the back of Mr. Guy, approximately from his lower neck around his buttocks, and the remainder of the skin was gone. The remainder of the skin had been dissolved by chemicals, and with the skin being gone, it basically exposed bare muscle in some of the subcutaneous tissue. So the remains were in a very complex and
Sorry, Scott, I didn't see that.
state to examine and to describe.
Okay. So did you observe any wounds?
I did.
To his body parts? And could you
Yes.
describe those?
So in documenting the wounds, I have to say that I have to give a number of wounds as an at least, because there was so much loss of tissue. So, even some of the arms, Mr. Guy's arms were down to bone, and some of the bone had begun to dissolve. There could have been more wounds. So the numbers of wounds that I give is an at least number, meaning so much of the tissue was gone, so much of the skin was gone, that it's impossible for me to give an exact counting. So the wounds that I could see and document primarily were on Mr. Guy's back, where the skin still was relatively intact. And on the skin of his back, he had what I identified as 34 sharp force injuries. And sharp force injuries are either stabs or cuts. These sharp force injuries, again, extended from up near about the area of his shoulder down to his buttocks. They were on both sides. The wounds ranged from about 1 inch in length to about 7 inches in length, and the maximum depth was about 6 inches. Associated with these stab wounds, I identified injuries to the liver, lungs, and kidneys and ribs. Again, there likely was more because of the dismemberment process. It was some of the cuts. It was difficult to tell if it was part of the dismemberment process or actually a sharp force injury that occurred while Mr. Guy was still alive.
In your report on the first and second pages, you note multiple, at least 42 sharp force injuries. Is that? I understand you to say 34, or did you say 34? Or?
I did 34, but he also had some on his abdomen as well that I hadn't described yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these are primarily on the back side of him.
Yes.
Okay. And is this consistent with him being attacked?
Yeah, that's crime and passion
stabbed from
for
behind,
sure.
Obviously?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And can you just discuss the nature of the wounds? How did they appear to be in a pattern? Did it appear to be random?
I would not describe them as being in a pattern. Again, they were on both sides of his back and extended a length from where his shoulders are to fairly close down to the level of his hips. So it wasn't in any distinct pattern that I could discern.
Stab wounds.
So I would consider them random.
Okay. And you indicated that there were also sharp force injuries to his abdominal section.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
Describe those.
Yeah. So there were 5 stab wounds on the left side of his abdomen. He also had a large area on the right side of his abdomen where a portion of the abdominal wall was missing and through which some of the bowels protruded. And again, it was impossible for me to tell whether this was a very large sharp force injury, in other words, a large cut, or whether it was part of the dismemberment process. But I could distinctly see 5 stab wounds on the left side of his abdomen. And again, those were not stab wounds that were identified on the skin because the skin on the front of his body was completely gone. These were stab wounds that were identified once his body wall was reflected back for me to examine his internal organs.
And did you observe any
Body
evidence
wall?
of injury to him internally as a result of the sharp force injuries?
Yes. Again, he had injuries to his liver, both lungs, both kidneys. He had injuries to multiple ribs. I think Dr. Marks, who is the forensic anthropologist, will describe those further, but he had 6 cuts on the, or 6 ribs were cut on the left, 6 ribs were cut on the right. And from what Dr. Marks described in his report, the location of those roughly approximates the stab wounds that I identified on his back.
Okay. And would you describe the sharp force injuries as occurring before death?
Yes, the 34 wounds on his back were consistent with being inflicted while he was still alive.
Okay. Was there any other evidence that you
Oh,
received or
damn.
observed to indicate that Mr. Guy
Holy
was
shit.
alive when he was attacked? Did you observe any injuries to? Did you examine his hands?
I did examine his hands. His hands were the only part of the dismembered remains that were basically still intact. So the skin of the hands had not been treated with any chemical, had not been put in the chemicals. They were found in a different room of the home from where the bins were, and the skin of the hands, other than being slightly dried from very early decomposition, the skin was intact and very well preserved.
Okay. And back up just a second. Did you note the depth of these wounds, Dr. Hawes? Could you determine how deeply the sharp force instrument penetrated?
The wounds on his hands?
On anywhere on his body?
Sure. Yeah. So the wounds on Mr. Guy's back ranged up to about 6 inches deep. Again, that is an approximation because some of his body was not there anymore, which would allow us a more accurate measurement. But the best approximation is about 6 inches deep. The wounds on the hands were much more superficial. Mr. Guy had some small abrasions on the back of his right hand. He had a small abrasion on his left little finger. And on the palms of his hands, he had multiple what we call linear cutting wounds or linear incise wounds that I would describe as classic defensive injuries. And they're described as classic defensive injuries because they're on the palms of the hands and the palm side of the fingers that will be consistent with someone putting their hands out either in a defensive motion or potentially grabbing a sharp edge weapon as a way to defend themselves.
So he's trying to fight him.
Did you take photographs of
Yeah.
his injuries?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you also prepare a diagram of his injuries?
Yes, I did.
May I approach the witness? Can you describe to the jury, please, just is somebody taking photographs while you were making your observations? Is this occurring throughout the autopsy process?
Yes.
How long does it typically take to perform an autopsy?
Yeah, so the term typical is a little bit difficult because there are so many different types of death that we investigate. What I would consider a relatively uncomplicated death, someone who might die of natural causes or someone who dies of a drug overdose, typically will take less than an hour. Cases such as this that are more complicated can take several hours.
He just got excited when she said complicated.
Yeah. Or he took a drink. I don't know.
I'm going to show you 13 photographs, beginning with exhibit 737 for identification only, and ask you if you recognize these photographs.
I do.
And the photographs have been sort of edited. Would you agree from their original condition? Just
I agree that those are not an exact replica of the photographs that we took at the time of autopsy.
Coloration has been diminished. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Please, if we could publish to 737 this time.
Any objection? You may publish. 737.
Just looking at his handiwork.
Mhm.
Describe what we're seeing. 737.
Oh, that was a bad pun.
Thank you. This is a photograph showing the back portion of Mr. Guy's dismembered hands. And as you can see, as I previously testified to, the skin is in relatively good condition. There's a little bit of drying that's noted at the tips of the fingers. That's just a normal postmortem change. You will note here, here, and here are the abrasions and superficial sharp force injuries that I previously testified to. You can begin to see some of the other sharp force injuries here and here
Shimmy, they're both.
that are consistent with defensive type injuries from a sharp wound.
Yeah.
This area right here is the very edge of the
Yeah.
area where the hands were dismembered from the wrist.
Okay, we'll go on to 737B.
A magic hand.
Okay.
I did not know the hands were coming up.
We definitely gave a warning.
737B depict.
Palm side of
Yes.
Mr. Guy's dismembered hands, showing the sharp force injuries that I have previously described, both on the left hand and the right hand. The longest wound you can see across the palm. Here, it's a very superficial. Again, it's described as a linear incised wound, and that's a cut from a sharp-edged instrument, such as a knife.
Who's hasn't?
And there are other injuries that you can see here, 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 and here.
Oh,
Also on the
absolutely.
tip
Yeah.
of
Cut the hell out of them.
right middle finger, there is more incised wound there at the web of the right thumb. And again, these wounds, as you can see, are consistent with either placing
You
your
said
hands
it.
outward to block a blow or potentially grabbing the sharp weapon as a protective measure or defensive measure.
737C.
Look at how big his eyes got.
Yeah, he's so
This
excited
is
about
just
that.
a close-up view of the palm side of the left hand, again showing the injuries that I had, the sharp force injuries on the middle portions of the finger here at the base of the left index finger and on the palm of the hand.
And you clear that, we'll go on to 737D.
Light rain, I would say so.
This looks like the same photograph.
Okay, next will be E. Is this just a closer view of the injuries from the same hand?
It is. It's a closer view, and as I've previously mentioned, the edges of the wound are slightly dark and have a dried appearance, and that's just a normal.
And Bobby,
postmortem
if you
change in
did, that'd be
skin that
funny.
needs to dry after death. So that's why those wounds have a slightly darker appearance, and also because the coloration of the photograph has been altered as well.
And the next number, F, I think.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to turn it so it's.
Yeah.
So this is the palm surface of the right hand. Again, it's a better view of that long incised wound there on the palm, that injury, that sharp force injury there at the web of the thumb, and that cut on the tip of the right middle finger. There's also a small incised wound on the right pinky on the side.
Clear that, we'll move on to G.
D's.
On to H. What are we looking at here?
So again, this is a slightly altered version of the photograph that was taken of Mr. Guy's back. And the skin of the back was better preserved, as I've mentioned, as the other areas of the body. And I think that's for one of two reasons. When the dismembered parts were found in the plastic tub in the chemical, this portion of Mr. Guy's back was actually above the level of the liquid. So it was not exposed to the liquid, to the chemicals for as long. And also the skin of the back is very thick. The thickest skin on your body
Shimmy,
is
if
on,
he
is on your
did, that
back.
would be
So I think the thickness of
great.
the skin affected the rate at which it was disintegrated by the chemicals. And again, this is an overview of some of the sharp force injuries that you can see. I'll just make some points here. You can see the stab wounds vary from fairly superficial to some of the larger wounds. And this is one of the large cuts that I previously testified to that could either be a large cut that occurred while Mr. Guy was still alive as part of the stabbing and cutting process, or it could be as a portion of the dismemberment process. There's really no way for me to know.
Okay. And is it fair to say
Oh,
that
light
he was
rain, that would be
placed
good.
face down in the tub?
At some point, he
Yes,
became
Dad.
to be face down, whether he was placed that way or, deceased bodies will have some buoyancy when they're in fluid. I can say that he was, when he was discovered, he was face down. How he came to be that way, I can't say.
Where were his limbs found?
His limbs were found underneath the torso, except for a portion of his, I believe it was his left foot. And that was another area where his skin was still relatively intact. So his back was, of the dismembered body parts, the back of his torso was on the top. A portion of his left foot was also sticking up out of the chemicals, and what remained of the arms and his other leg were underneath this portion in the chemical.
Next number. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, some of these wounds appear to have some separation. Is it your opinion that the chemical solution affected the size maybe or the shape of some of these wounds? Is that a possibility?
It's definitely a possibility. Also, stab wounds will gape. There are tension lines in your skin that plastic surgeons often take advantage of when you go to have cosmetic procedures done. But if you cut across those tension lines, a wound will gape open. If you cut with the line, it won't. Because some of the wounds gape open, it could be just because of where they are along those lines, or it could be the skin is starting to retract and the tissue beneath the skin is starting to retract because of the chemical. Any of those things are a possibility. It's in likelihood it was a combination of those things.
Next number.
Yes, file that in the old filing
I
cabinet.
wanted you to this sort of depicts a different area of the back. Are all of these, can you just sort of point with, show us what you determined to be a sharp force injury?
Sure.
Plastic tub scad.
There's one there. Again, some of them are fairly superficial and almost have more of a pinpoint appearance. Some of them are larger and deeper.
And again, these are all on his back.
Correct.
Okay. And underneath the marker, that's the largest wound that you found again?
Yes.
Okay. Next photograph, please.
This is simply another view of his back showing some of the other superficial stab wounds.
The wound at the top, does that have any significance to you when you look at that?
Yeah, so this is a stab wound that has a what we call a tail. So this isn't an exact pointer, but at this end, there is a little tail or a little twist on it. And so that's what happens when the knife is inserted and either the knife is turned or Mr. Guy turned. It just indicates that there was a change in direction between when the knife was placed in and when it was pulled out. It just indicates there's some movement of the knife or movement of the victim as he's being stabbed.
So you don't know if he was moving or if his assailant was moving the knife.
Correct.
Impossible to tell. Okay, next number.
Kind of like a duck penis.
And that is is that another example of that?
Yes, that looks like it may be even close-up version of the other one.
Version of the other? Okay. If you could just point to the tail there. Okay. And next number. That's all. Okay. Now I understand that you also prepared diagrams of these injuries. Is that correct?
I did.
Okay. And if I could approach the witness again. I'm going to show you these photographs or these images and ask you if you can describe them.
I can, yes.
And did you prepare those diagrams?
I did. This diagram actually corresponds to Mrs. Guy.
Yeah, I just saw that. Okay. So does that depict the front and back of Mr. Guy's person?
Yes, I would describe these illustrations as an approximation of what the remains were. Again, it would be impossible for me. I'm not an illustrator. It would be impossible for me to go back and create it exactly, but I think it's a good semblance or a good approximation to demonstrate the condition of Mr. Guy's remains.
We're going to leave off that one. Can I publish these, Judge?
What were the numbers? I'm sorry.
738 and the A and B of 738.
Okay, you may publish. As soon as objections to that.
Now, with 738, A first. Ask you if you can describe the wounds on Mr. Guy's abdominal area.
It's
Yes. So this is the approximate location.
She drew
There
a
were actually
penis on his
5 stab
abdomen.
wounds. There's only 4 circles there on the left. But again, this diagram demonstrates that virtually all the skin had been dissolved away on Mr. Guy's, the front of his torso, and that his arms were disarticulated and his legs were disarticulated and his head was skeletonized. This is the approximate location. Again, these were visualized not in the fat like we see here, but once the abdominal wall was reflected or opened, I could actually see on the inside where those stab wounds entered into the body cavity. And the large drawing on Mr. Guy's right, which would be your left, is that large area on the abdominal wall that I described, that I don't know if it was part of the dismemberment process or whether it was just an extremely large sharp force wound that was inflicted while he was still alive.
So you don't have an opinion with respect to that largest wound, that whether or not it was before death or after death, you can't determine.
I can't.
And does this indicate that
I was
Mr.
just
Guy
thinking
was
that these.
assaulted both from the front and the back, your findings?
Yes.
And next B, this exhibit, and if we could enlarge that. So if you could just discuss your findings and the diagram.
Sure. Again, this demonstrates that Mr. Guy's head was completely skeletonized. The arms were disarticulated and the legs are as well. There was still some skin on his back. And these are the approximate, again, not an exact replica, but the approximate number and location of wounds on both sides of Mr. Guy's back.
So the wounds that affected his liver, was that from the abdominal wounds or from the wounds from the back?
It could have been from either. Or both.
Is that the same with the kidneys?
The kidneys,
kidney, right?
the kidneys were likely from the back as opposed to the front.
All right. And the wounds, the injuries to his lungs would clearly be from the sharp force injuries to the back. Is that
Most likely from the back, yes.
now? What was your ultimate finding as to his cause of death?
So the cause of death of Mr. Joel Guy Sr. is multiple sharp force injuries.
And the manner of death?
Homicide.
Could you turn the lights on, please? Okay, so now I would like to direct your attention to Mrs. Guy's autopsy. I don't mean to be disrespectful by sometimes referring to her as Lisa. If I do, I apologize, but it's probably easier to hear if I use the first name. So could you please discuss, you also prepared a report with respect to her autopsy.
I did.
So this would be 739? Yes. Okay, thank you. And I'm going to show you, it's been marked for identification as Exhibit 739, and ask you if you recognize this document.
I do.
And what is it?
This is a copy of the autopsy report for Lisa M. Guy.
I would move this into evidence here, please.
Any objection?
No.
To the Exhibit 739?
So Dr. Foster, if you would just sort of take us through this, through your report, just as you did with Mr. Guy's autopsy, and please discuss your findings.
So like Mr. Guy, Mrs. Guy was also dismembered. There was some differences in the degree to which she was dismembered and the way she was dismembered. Her head was completely severed from her body. Her arms were disarticulated at the shoulders, and her legs were disarticulated at the knees. So in comparison to Mr. Guy, who had his legs disarticulated at the hips, Mrs. Guy's legs were at the knee. So her thighs were still intact. Her thighs were still attached onto her body, but her head was completely severed and her arms were completely severed. Much like Mr. Guy, the skin of her back was still relatively well preserved compared to her front, where there was almost no skin left. Mrs. Guy's head was found in a large pot in liquid in the kitchen. The liquid in the pot had a slightly different character to it than the liquid in the plastic tubs. It didn't have the strong chemical odor. It had a slight odor of decomposition, but it did not have the chemical odor like the bins upstairs did. And the skin that remained, the skin and flesh that remained on her scalp was different. It did not have the top layer of skin was still intact. In other words, the skin looked like it had heat artifact, or what we call thermal artifact, as opposed to a chemical artifact. The hair was still there as well. And so those were the primary differences. Miss Guy had multiple sharp force injuries on her back. She had at least 25. And again, I'm having to do a little bit of a hedge because of the degree to which the remains were altered. Again, the wounds were on both sides of her back. They were approximately 6 to 7 inches deep. They included injuries to the heart, so the right ventricle or the right side of her heart, the aorta in her abdomen, which is the major blood vessel that leaves the heart and feeds the lower portion of the body. Both lungs were injured, the left kidney, the liver, and her third thoracic vertebra. So a bone in the spine also appeared to be injured. She also had 5 stab wounds that were relatively superficial on her buttock as well.
Would you describe these wounds as
I don't give a damn.
For the ones that I could tell, yes. There was also a large cutting wound on the right side of her abdomen that was in a similar location to Mr. Guy that I was not able to tell if it was related to the dismemberment or whether it was a premortem sharp force injury.
Okay. Did you take photographs of Mrs. Guy's injuries?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
I can. I was just trying not to cut you off. I'm sorry.
Mrs. Guy definitely means something different in today's society.
Yes.
Look at these photographs and tell me if you recognize them, please. Exhibit 740B.
Do not come.
I do.
And what do the photographs depict?
These are, again, slightly altered photographs of the injuries from Mrs. Guy.
He's hoping to be able to see him. Like, look at him. He's like, do I get to see those?
And if you would, as we just go through these, Dr. Hawes, just describe your observations that you made at the time of autopsy. And we may want to turn this the other way, there, like this. Is that an accurate? Just tell the jury what we see.
Sure. This is, again, a slightly altered photograph, and it's a little difficult to tell where it is on the body because of the dismemberment process, but it appears that this is a stab wound that I've not previously described on the left of Miss Guy's chest. This appears to be the edge of the dismemberment of the arm, and this appears to be fatty tissue up here toward the head. So again, this is a stab wound on her, the left side of her upper chest.
So her front side. And
yes.
Did you associate any internal injury with this particular wound?
It did extend down into muscle, but again, because it was in the area of the dismemberment, it was difficult to tell where it went, where the wound path extended to after that. But it did go down at least into
They
skeleton.
came all over the place.
Clarify something with Dr. Halls, and we've used the term altered photographs. And Dr. Halls, I know what you understand by that. I just want to make sure the jurors understand. When you say altered, you're meaning that the coloring has been changed, so it's not quite as clear. And
yeah, the jury gets to see the photos
to cut out some of the edges of the photographs. Is that accurate? But it is an accurate representation of what you observed. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm sorry. haven't been clear with that language, but yes, this is an accurate, and the other photographs are an accurate representation of the wounds. But I also wanted to be clear that they are not an exact representation. They are an accurate representation, but not an exact representation of the photographs as they were taken. Thank you, Your Honor, for reminding me about that.
Thank you, Doctor.
We can clear that and go on to the 740.
No, sir. Okay.
No.
And if you could just describe what this photograph depicts.
This is a view of the stab wounds on Mrs. Guy's back. And there are a couple of things to note here. One is there are wounds on both sides of the back, as I previously described. There are also some other tails, similar to what I described in the other photographs for Mr. Guy. One example of that would be right there at the edge of that. So this looks like it's two stab wounds that are very close together. It looks like there may be I just barked right on top of it, but there's a tiny strip of skin that looks like it's in between two stab wounds very close together with a tiny tail on the end. This has the appearance of a tail here also. It's difficult to tell if this wound is two overlapping wounds or potentially a large tail on this end. This wound appears to have a tail. So again, it's just a general representation of the stab wounds on Miss Guy's back.
Next number. If you could clear the markings. Is this just a different orientation?
Yes, ma'am, it is. Because just for reference, there's that stab wound that appears to be two that are very close together.
And I think this is just a close-up. You've discussed the tail, and again, that would indicate to you that either she was moving or the assailant moved the knife. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Next number. Next number. Is that just a close-up of? So can you tell if those are two wounds or not?
Given the fact that there's that bridge of tissue right across there, it's likely two stab wounds that are just very close together.
Okay. And also with the tail indicating movement.
Yes.
Number. And with respect to the size of the wounds, would you have the same opinion that could be from the gaping of the tissue, or it could be from the result of chemical?
Here we go with gaping again.
Is that accurate?
Yes.
I think they like gaping.
Next number.
Who
Yeah.
doesn't, though?
And to my left, there is a large wound. Can you just discuss that wound?
Yeah, that is one of the largest wounds that I identified on Mrs. Guy's back, and this is right in the kind of the low back or the lumbar area, kind of where your back kind of curves around. Again, given that it's so irregular shaped, there's a possibility that might be related to an attempted dismemberment area. There's a fairly well-defined stab wound right here beside it. And the very edge of it here has a fairly well-defined stab wound. So again, there's no way for me to say within a medical certainty whether that's part of the dismemberment process or part of stabbing, but it is one of the larger stab wounds that was identified on Miss Guy's back.
Next number, please. Okay.
Huh.
And with respect to this autopsy, did you also prepare diagrams of a couple of?
Yes.
What I want. I just want to do two of them. Okay. I think I've got this one marked. All right. So this number will be 741.
We can do anything.
And I'm going to ask you if you're going to do 742. Judge, is that how you want to do it?
I was going to say anything.
Okay. All right, and I will ask you if you recognize these.
I do. These are slightly cropped versions of the illustrations that I made to document the injuries to Mrs. Guy.
Any objection? 741 A and B.
And if you could discuss 741A, please.
Yes, this is an illustration of the front of Mrs. Guy's torso, again demonstrating the lack of any intact skin left on the front of her body. And this is the stab wound on the left upper chest that would be just in the area of the clavicle. And there was also, that I previously described, a large portion across the front of her lower chest, upper abdomen, through which her internal organs were visible. And again, given the size of it, it is difficult for me to say the nature of that wound, whether it was part, again, of the attempted dismemberment, or whether it was just a very, very large wound across the front of the abdomen.
And B, please.
So this is an illustration of Mrs. Guy's back, again demonstrating the head.
It's an illustration. You should be able to see it.
Approximately the level of the second and third vertebra in the neck, which are called the cervical vertebra. And the arms were disarticulated at the shoulders. And then these are the approximate locations of the stab wounds on her back, again, demonstrating that they're on both sides, demonstrating the largest wound that was here in her lumbar area, and then the 5 relatively superficial stab wounds on her right buttock.
And with respect to the wound,
He stabbed her butt.
lower back, is that where her spine was injured, or was her
Yeah,
spine injured?
Her spine was injured further up.
And so you indicated that she also had injuries to her her lungs and heart. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Her left kidney, liver, and the spine.
Yes, and ribs as well. I have not described the rib injuries, but like Mr. Guy, she had multiple bilateral rib injuries. I believe she had 12 cuts on her left ribs and 9 on her right, and also on her right shoulder blade. There was a, Dr. Marks described in his report, a small cut on the side of the shoulder blade that would be in the proximate location of one of the wounds that are here on the right side of her back.
If I have just a moment, Judge, I need to count some photographs. If we could have the lights up. Does an increase in temperature, indoor temperature, speed up decomposition? Is that possible?
Yes.
How long does it take to die from sharp force injuries, such as these?
The answer is it depends. So these stab wounds cause death by a couple of different mechanisms. Stab wounds that injure the lung, they interfere with breathing, because if you puncture the wall surrounding the lung can't expand and you can't breathe. They would also expect it to be blood loss from these wounds as well. Neither blood loss nor air around the lung, it's called a pneumothorax. Neither of those things would cause instantaneous death. So I would estimate anywhere from a few seconds to a few minutes. It's just impossible for me to say without knowing in which order the wounds were inflicted.
Okay. I'm going to split these up a little bit. All right. And you've indicated that Mr. Guy died. His cause of death was multiple sharp force injuries and manner homicide. Is that the same with respect to Mrs. Guy?
Yes, ma'am.
May I approach the witness? You should just briefly go through these and tell me if they are, you recognize them.
I do recognize them.
And are these photographs that were taken by your assistant on November the 29th?
Yes. Yes, ma'am, they are.
Golden Butte, right? Okay. And if we could start with 742A, and just if you could just describe the chemicals that you noted when you went through the house.
So when we entered the house, we entered through the garage, and this is, to the best of my recollection, this is the entryway into the kitchen and little eat-in dining area from the garage. And right, as you can see in the floor here, there is several bottles of bleach. That appeared to be bleach as well. We did not obviously open that container. There's also some baking soda, some plastic bags, and some other sheets and towels there on the floor.
Okay. Go to B. And this is a close-up of that same photograph. And I would ask you if you can read what is depicted next to the red labeling on the jug.
Yes, it says it's muriatic acid, which is the same thing as hydrochloric acid. It specifically, it's a very strong type of hydrochloric acid.
Is that a substance that is capable of having an effect on a human body?
Yes.
What effect would that be?
It could certainly dissolve or at least slough the skin, much like we see here with Mr. and Miss Guy.
Love.
C. And I'm going to ask you if you recognize what's depicted in this area.
Yes, this is at the top of the landing from the stairs. So right as you come up the stairway on the very top landing, this is obviously a blood stain there on the carpet, and it's surrounded by containers that I believe were labeled as drain cleaner. They contain, up to the best of my recollection, sodium hydroxide, which is just a different type of drain cleaner. There's also some female appearing clothing there, and there may have been a couple of other chemicals there as well, but the large white buckets were sodium hydroxide.
So in your opinion, as a forensic pathologist, is this photograph, does it depict evidence that perhaps Mrs. Guy, assuming that those are her clothes and her blood, is it consistent with her being attacked in that area?
It could be, yes.
Okay. So D.
What else
This is a
fucking clothes
close-up,
would
of
they
course, of
be?
the products that were there next to her. And can you describe what effect this particular chemical would have on the human body?
Yes, sodium hydroxide is also considered a poison if used inappropriately, and it could also cause burns on the skin.
If if these tubs, these 4 tubs there, if you heard that those were actually empty, do you have an opinion as to whether or not those substances could have been used to decompose the remains?
Is that a bra or underwear?
It's possible, but I am not going to be offering any
I don't know.
testimony as to what the chemical nature of the substance in the tubs were, but it's certainly possible.
Okay. And E. So if you could discuss what this photograph depicts, what it would indicate to you as a forensic pathologist.
So these are red-brown stains on the wall beside the female appearing, or the clothing that appears to be from a female there on the ground beside the blood stain and beside the containers of sodium hydroxide. Again, I am not a blood
I hope
spatter
he
expert.
was
I don't
genitals.
profess to be able to interpret what this means. It has the appearance of blood, especially given the other evidence at the scene. It could either be cast off. It could potentially be arterial spray. It could be, if a body part is slung or shaken vigorously, it could be cast off from that. It just is the appearance of blood that is sprayed on the wall.
But is it also potentially evidence that an assault of some nature took place in that general area?
Yes.
Okay. F. And I would just ask you to, if you want to get close up on that, ask you the same question with respect to this particular area of the wall.
Yes, but in the same vein, these are red-brown spots that have the appearance of blood. And again, not being a blood spatter expert, I can't interpret them, but there are several different reasons for why that might be splattered on the wall.
But again, do you agree that it would, you could interpret that an assault of some nature took place in proximity to that wall?
Yes.
Okay. G. And I just want you to note the thermostat reading. You testified that it was quite warm upstairs. And this
Needs a filter change.
Correct?
Yes.
Mhm.
And it reads 93 degrees.
Yes.
Okay. And H. And that is again sodium.
Worthless piece of shit. Couldn't even change the filters.
Yes. If you look very carefully right here, it reads sodium hydroxide, a very strong concentration of sodium hydroxide.
Okay. something strong enough to clean a sewer line, right?
Yes.
That's the label on the product. Okay, next number, please. Should be I think. And if we could kind of get a close-up of this is also sodium hydroxide, is that correct?
Yeah, I don't recall specifically this particular, what the ingredients were in this particular container.
Can you read?
Oh, yeah, it contains sodium hydroxide. Yes, right there.
Is that the same thing as lye? Is that what lye is?
Yes.
Okay, next number.
That's a lie.
And again, this.
Yep,
if you
he's a liar.
Discuss your observations with respect to this photograph, the contents of this photograph.
This is the appearance of the master
Are those stuffed
bedroom
animals?
and adjacent master bathroom here as we arrived on scene. There were multiple things there, beanie babies. There looks like to be a blender. There's
Yeah.
and some type of industrial light.
Yep.
There's all manner of things there. I believe there were also some other chemicals and maybe some plastic there on the ground, some Sharpies. So just kind of what I would consider an odd arrangement or odd collection of items there on the floor.
Next number. And I think we've got some close-up of some of these substances.
Well, it was an odd collection of
identify that
douche.
as a product containing chemicals.
Yes, Liquid Fire is also marketed as a drain cleaner. I'll have to look closer at the label, but I believe that Liquid Fire contains sulfuric acid, if I'm not mistaken.
Next number.
Genitals. Why would you do that to yourself?
It's a chemical, caustic chemical dose. Is that fair to say?
Yes, and again, I believe it's sulfuric acid.
And next number.
Yes,
Discuss what
she did.
I believe there were 3 of these in the previous photograph.
Yeah, so
Does this have any
hydrogen.
significance to you?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Does
cut
this
you off.
chemical have any significance to you as a forensic pathologist?
Well, hydrogen peroxide is
Just
something that we're
remembering
probably
his
all familiar
parents
with.
or
We probably all have
dismembering
it
his
in our
parents?
medicine cabinets. You can clean wounds with it. It's just usually a
Both.
general.
Yeah, I mean,
cleaning
I was gonna say both
or,
work.
cleaning out cuts or so forth. Now, the food, why it's considered food grade, that is something I can't answer. I'm not familiar with food grade hydrogen peroxide.
Do you see where it reads skin contact about 3/4 of the way down the screen?
I do. It says skin contact, mildly corrosive.
The next number, please.
Just mildly.
Mm-hmm.
If you could discuss the contents of this photograph.
So this room is another room upstairs that I would describe
Behind
as
that
a
black
spare bedroom
box
or
is
an
a pair of
exercise room.
hands.
And what's significant here, there's a large area of blood on the wall, blood on and seeping into the carpet, and beneath the
Hey, there's a
black square
Bobby's
that's
corner.
redacting the areas of where Mr. Guy's
Ketchup corner.
And the movement of
Uh-huh.
blood staining on the wall, does it depict movement, in your opinion, as the forensic
That's what he called it.
It does. The blood
I
appears
know.
smeared as opposed to, splattered or splashed. It's actually smeared, a contact smear. Again, how that came to be or who smeared it, there's no way for me to know, but the blood does appear to have a contact smear on it.
In your opinion, does it appear to be an area where a violent struggle took place?
What
That would
is
be
he so
one
happy
explanation,
about?
yes.
And
God only knows. This guy's fucking weird.
in your opinion, is that sort of closer to the ground? I mean, it's not at the ceiling, right? It's indicates maybe the blood was deposited when one or more persons was
Hey, Forbidden Ruin.
maybe closer to the ground.
What's up, Forbidden?
Next number, please. And if you would just discuss, I believe this is the same room. Is that just more reddish brown staining?
Yes, ma'am. This is closer to the doorway. The doorway can be seen there in the upper left
Bobby,
corner.
it's your room.
So yes, this is more blood in a different area of the same room.
Bobby, I told you to clean that shit up.
More of the same. We'll move on to the next one. And does this depict more reddish brown staining?
Yes, ma'am.
And next number, please. All right, so we're back into the master bathroom area. Does this is this how this area appeared to you, other than the redact or the editing? Is this how it appeared to you when you first viewed it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and I believe you mentioned some.
Oh, they
deterioration of the
edited
plastic.
it.
If you could just show. And I don't want to enlarge that image, but if you could just.
They keep
mark
cucking us
the
hard.
defects in the containers.
Real hard.
On the right side of this container, you can see it starting to bow out. There's also some kind of light blue or whitish creases there. And it's out of the frame of this photograph, but on the other side of this particular container. So the dismembered remains of Mr. Guy are in this container. The dismembered remains of Mrs. Guy are in this container. So you can start to see the edges starting to warp, and there's that light colored area that you see when plastic starts to weaken or bend.
Okay. Next number. So I wanted to ask you, does this photograph depict just how much liquid was involved in these tubs? Is that accurate?
Yes.
And you could just darken the screen for a second. So with respect to that photograph, obviously there's somebody there is that the process where they were draining the liquid from the tubs into another container?
Yes.
And this next number, does this also depict the level of liquid in the other tub?
It does. And you can also, this is the part that was out of the frame in the other photograph where you can start to see there's an outbending and there's some light coloration of the plastic. This is the bin that contained Mrs. Guy's remains.
Okay. And this photograph, what does it depict?
This is a photograph of the container when the liquid was pumped out of the containers that held the body parts. And this is the container in which the liquid was removed and taken from the home.
Were you there the entire time this process was going on?
Yes.
Was it time consuming?
Yes.
Oh,
Next number. And this photograph, what does it depict?
This depicts
he's
the
such a
outside
smug
of the
prick.
containers
He's
that,
so happy
held the
about
body
this, and
parts,
that's
and they
what's
are
the
labeled
hardest thing to
with,
deal with here.
case numbers for Mr. Guy and Mrs. Guy.
And obviously, they were not transported to the medical examiner's office in the empty tubs. They were removed, as you said, in another way.
Yes, once the liquid was removed, my medical death investigator with my assistance and Dr. Malusnik's assistance, another forensic pathologist, removed the body parts one by one so we could do an initial accounting of how many parts were there.
Okay, next number. And this photograph?
This photograph is taken, so we're back in the kitchen downstairs, and this is the cooking pot that was on the stove that when we first entered the residence, it was indicated to us that Mrs. Guy's head was in the pot.
Okay, and next number.
Oh shit.
So does this just depict like the level of liquid that was in the pot?
Yes.
And you can take that off. And I believe you indicated in your testimony that you don't believe that there was a corrosive substance there.
Based on the appearance of the skin that remained on her scalp and her hair, no, I do not believe that the same chemical that was in the tubs was in that pot.
Talk about thermal artifacts. Is that the same thing as cooking?
Yes.
Let me approach. I'm going to show you 743A and E and ask you if you recognize these photographs.
I do recognize them.
And what are they?
They are photographs of
I believe the family
various
members
knives,
are in the
at
courtroom.
various locations throughout the scene.
Yeah, I think so.
As we go through them. Do you believe that any of these knives could have been used to inflict the wounds that you observed on Joel and Lisa Guy?
It's possible. There's no way for me to match any one particular wound with any one particular knife.
Go to B.
Huh.
Is it possible that this knife was used to either inflict sharp force injury or disarticulate the victims in this case?
It's possible.
Next number. And with respect to this knife found in a different area of the house, is it possible that this knife inflicted?
You think his attorney is a germaphobe?
Some or all of them, either of the victims?
Yes.
Next number. And with respect to this knife, and go to the next one too. I think it depicts the other.
He doesn't want to
Those two knives, are they
creepy
capable of inflicting
catch creepy
sharp injuries
vibes.
that you observed on the bodies of these victims?
Yeah.
Yes.
Could they
I
have
mean,
used
it was
disarticulate?
COVID, so they probably had to separate
it's possible.
because he was in jail.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's true too, probably.
For your appearance here today.
Cross-examination.
No questions, John.
Thank you, Dr. Halls. You are excused. I appreciate your service. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir.
No
All
questions.
right, ladies and gentlemen, that takes us to 5 o'clock and the end of our day. as Dr. Halls is departing, I'm going to give you some instructions for the night. Several of these you have heard. One of these you have not heard yet. The first that you have heard is, once again, do not discuss this case with anyone, family members, friends.
Okay, we don't need to hear the judge's instructions again. So that
Nope.
is certainly going to be it for today. We're getting through it, ladies and gentlemen. From what I
We
can
are.
tell, yeah, we're getting there. From what I can tell, we have probably 2 weeks left. 2 Mondays left. So I'm gonna try and pare it down, clean it up a little bit so that we can get it in 2 weeks. So that's the hope. We'll see what happens. Crazy shit happens, but we'll try to get it done in 2 weeks. In reference to that SCAD, please be safe. There's going to be some storm surge coming back the other way. There are not one but 2 hurricanes. One's going up the right side of Florida and one's going up the left side of Florida. So should be fun. So make sure you're staying safe.
Yep.
And I have holidays off. What holidays? I'm just gonna ignore you, like I don't know what the hell you're talking about. So yes. But yeah, we're getting to the interesting part. The medical examiner was far more interesting than the police talking about the same pictures again and again and again.
Yes.
Like I'm gonna take fucking Labor Day off. You know I'll be here, same bat time, same bat channel. Yes. I wasn't being mean. So yeah, that's what's coming up. Friday, I will not be doing a show, but there'll be plenty for you to watch. My good friend Brian at Nucleatic Gaming, he'll be playing shit he told me and I don't remember. He'll be playing a brand new game over at Nucleatic Gaming over on Rumble. He's a good guy, nice wholesome shit, and he'll be there all day Friday. He's taking the entire day off work to play this brand new release game. And then, as normal, Jenny and my co-host Dog Momma will be doing game night as usual. So it'll be a good time, of course. So go ahead and stop over there as well. I will be at my alma mater kicking off the college football season. So for some reason we start on Friday night. Happens. But yeah. So that's gonna be it for us tonight. Tomorrow there is a premiere from a video that I worked on that a couple people asked me about. So that is up, ready to go.
You're not going live?
Tomorrow? Nope.
I did a day off.
And posted a premiere. No, I did a premiere.
I'm
My work's
kidding, I
done.
know.
Nah, I'll hang out in chat probably, and we'll see from there. But yeah, so that's what we got coming up. Anything specific you have coming up, or y'all got coming up?
Friday game night, Sunday shit show.
Wow, that
Is
was
all
the
I can
worst
think of.
self-promotion I've ever had in my life.
I don't do this stuff.
All right, let me do it for it. So they have a wonderful game night that they involve everybody from the community on Friday nights, usually right after my show. I can't find your fucking channel. I can never find it. And
I thought it was the best promo ever.
Yeah, it works. So she does it with Shenny and a bunch of people from my Discord and kind of, regulars that watch this channel will go over and play different games over there. And I'm just going to drop Shenny's channel because I can't find yours. And then Sunday, Shenny and Dog Momma do the shit show. And it is a shit show. And it is just hours of rambling about shit. So it's a good time, and I usually show up or try. Yeah, you do me now.
Now I do you? Oh, well, MightyMeat does a lot.
You're the fucking worst at this. All right, guys.
I know.
Little Rocket
Oh, yes,
Man.
yes. We lost power last Sunday, or power to the monitor. And, yeah, MightyMeat does great work. He does little rocket stuff. He does Legos, and he does science, and he does Murderous Mondays, and I'm here for Mondays. I'm here for most days.
Politics.
Politics.
Clintons at some point.
News.
Maybe the Clintons again at some point. But
Chomo.
yeah, Chomos. We review them. But I know. Yep. So so all right, 2 more weeks of this guy, and we'll be all the way through to sentencing. So, Dog Momma, thank you as always for joining me.
You're
Chat,
welcome.
you're
Thank you
awesome.
for having me.
Yeah. Chat, love you. You're awesome. And I'll be in Discord for a little bit if anybody wants to come hang out. With that being said, have a great night, and we will see you soon.
Good night.